IB Nation. We are here to talk about Notre Dame's absolute destruction of Clemson. I will not be on the show tonight after this, but there was no way that I was going to be able to miss this, at least the beginning of this, fellas. Tremendous victory for Notre Dame. Dominant performance. And I got to tell you, it was even more impressive from the press box, guys. Have a great show. Everybody, enjoy tonight. Go Irish. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Well, that's a good way to get us kicked off, fellas. I would say so here at Irish Breakdown, of course, on the Irish Breakdown postgame show, Irish Breakdown podcast. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Make sure you join us at boards.irishbreakdown.com because, Sean, we know that it is a big recruiting weekend on top of this fantastic 35-14 victory in favor of Notre Dame over Clemson. But over 60-plus recruits are on campus tonight. So, we'll have the full intel as far as how the weekend has gone from a recruiting side. But we'll save that to the end of the show because I'm already getting flooded by a few recruits. So, Sean, I know you're probably talking to a bunch right now that are kind of in euphoria right now. Of course, Jesse Stiers is with us as well, who does the IB Nation Sports Talk show with his dad a few times a week. And, Jesse, I guess let's kick it off with you, man. It's your first time on the postgame show. The excitement. This is what we have been waiting for, obviously, right? This is why people were so excited about the changing of the guard, about the Marcus Freeman era. Got started off to a rocky start this season, obviously, a very up and down season so far, but be able to dominate the number 4 team in the country at home, on your turf, in front of all your fans, a team that has had it's kind of run you guys into the kind of run the matchup between Notre Dame and Clemson throughout the years, aside from their victory in 2020 with a Trevor Lawrence-less Clemson team. So your initial thoughts, man? It was a pretty crazy affair tonight for Notre Dame.
Yeah, I think the most impressive thing that happened this evening was Notre Dame dominating in every aspect that they wanted to dominate in. We knew that they were a good running team, but Clemson had a very good interior defensive line. But they still exerted their will and went over 200 yards on the ground against a very NFL kind of talent type defensive line. And I think that says a lot about Notre Dame's offensive line and how impressive that they were, that they just exerted their dominance. They took away Clemson's run game. They forced DJ into long throws. They took away DJ screenplays on the perimeter. They blew up everything defensively. And then, of course, they blocked another punt and created points in the special teams area as well. So, and then obviously, again, the defense creating turnovers, creating a turnover in the red zone. Morrison playing out of his mind, the best game that he's played, and he's only a freshman. 2 interceptions, continuously, blowing up these plays on the perimeter and the screen plays. So it was just amazing to see Notre Dame dominate in everything that they wanted to. This game plan felt very similar to what they wanted to do against Ohio State, yet they executed. They ran the ball how they wanted to. Pine didn't really have to do a whole bunch, but he did do where he had to. He pulled that ball in the RPO, made some plays with his legs, and continued some drives. So really, really impressive night as a Notre Dame fan right now.
I think you said it perfectly, Jesse. Notre Dame kind of exerted their will on Clemson tonight, right? Like anything they wanted to do, they did. So obviously we're going to be breaking it down from an offensive perspective, defensive perspective. Sean, we got to talk about special teams tonight too, obviously, with how they kicked off the action tonight, right? After you were just kind of like, a little bit of a slow start the first drive, but then you get obviously the big punt block, return for a touchdown for Prince Colley, which was a big moment in the game. But Sean, before we dig too far into the offense defense, kind of like what I was just asking Jesse, just kind of your initial thoughts, man. Big victory for Notre Dame tonight.
Tonight is the culmination, and let me say it like this, Ryan. We come here daily and we talk Notre Dame football. And sometimes it's tough for us because we have to critique young men. Like, we don't like doing it, but that's the job we're given. And we're fair. I think we're fair. But I'm extremely ecstatic for guys like J.D. Bertrand, Drew Pine, Jared Patterson, who took a hard hit from the fan base after that Marshall game and the way he acted after the game. All the other Cam Hart, who, in my opinion, set the tone with his play in that first series. played his best game of the season. There's so many guys that have just, been criticized by the fan base, and we've had to critique their games and them not playing up to expectations from the preseason. And Isaiah Foskey coming on, Riley Mills coming on, Justin Adamiola having a great game, and just on and on and on. I'm extremely happy for these kids tonight, man.
Yep.
That's what it's all about. Like, we come here and we talk and we give credit to where credit is due. And then when there's blame to go around, we mention that. But these kids, man, they showed me something tonight. Vince, I never thought we would see this. Not this season. After that Stanford game, there's no way you couldn't have paid me to believe that they had a performance like this.
Listen, we had the tailgate, before the game, and I'm talking to a bunch of people, and I was getting a little bit of crap from people for picking Notre Dame to lose, rightfully so. I get it, but I had to call it how I had it. Hey, it is what it is, man. I had a close loss, but whatever. And if Father David Penny is in the thing, I told him I was going to ask for absolution when I came on the post-game show, so I'm asking for the absolution now. My bad. I've never been more happy to be wrong in my entire life. Okay. And I've been married for almost 20 years. I'm wrong a lot, and I'm real happy to be wrong right now. Okay. But I said, look, I wouldn't be surprised if Clemson blows out Notre Dame. I wouldn't be surprised if Notre Dame blows out Clemson. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a close. Like, I had no idea going into this game what we were going to see. But in all of my wildest dreams, I would have not guessed that Notre Dame was going to absolutely just physically dominate Clemson from the first whistle to the last one. Not only did they dominate them physically in the run game, and they did everything that we wanted them to do, right? But they continued to do it until there were zeros on the clock. When was the last time Notre Dame did that? I mean, then play action, throwing into Mayer for the nail in the coffin. Like, who's calling the plays? Like, that doesn't happen at Notre Dame.
Vince, I think the most impressive part of the night, and I put it on Twitter earlier, man, is that look, we knew that DJ Uiagalelei had been struggling coming into this game with what he did 2 weeks ago, right? We know that the secondary for Clemson has been a little bit lackluster throughout most of the season. But one part that you thought Clemson would have coming into this football game is they got some dudes on that defensive line, man. They got some dudes in that front seven.
Absolutely.
And Notre Dame went right out of strength, and they eliminated them.
Yep.
Outside of that coverage sack of Miles Murphy early, Miles Murphy was invisible this game, man. Like, they thoroughly impressed. But I want to start a different spot because we're going to go offense, we're going to go defense, a lot to dive into. Vince, I think it's only fair, man. I mean, we've kind of been singing Brian Mason's praises throughout the last few weeks, right?
Yeah.
But now the unit has 6 blocked punts. Jordan Botelho blocks a punt, takes it back to the house. Prince Kali, huge moment in this football game. So I would be remiss if I didn't shout it out because the special teams got us kicked off tonight, got the party started. 6 block punt, of the season. Brian Mason, Sean Davis, coach of the year. What's happening here, man?
Are you kidding me? Can we up his salary tonight? Him and Harry.
Just
look,
back up the Broyles Award and send it to South Bend.
Look, man, don't tell me coaching doesn't matter. Don't tell me that.
Same guys.
Harry has changed, and we forget season to season. Let's go from week 3 to now. The difference in the offensive line and how dominant, and they're building. And remember, we said this was going to be the litmus test because we believed when Marcus Freeman said they had gained the confidence to really know who they were as a team. And when he came out Monday, when your coach comes out on a Monday and says, my guys are ready. What? Your guys are ready for the game right now? Like, yeah, my guys are ready. They're ready today. And they showed it tonight. And, man, look, do you think Lincoln Riley's going to have fun watching this film?
It's going to be fun to watch.
Going to have fun watching this film? Because what do you do? Like, when a team can literally line up and tell you we're running the ball, and there's nothing you can do about it. I don't care how many people you put in the box. Yes, our quarterback struggles in the passing game a little bit, but we're still going to find a way to wear you down. And they just did it to one of the, like Jesse said, NFL talent sprinkled throughout that defense. especially that front seven. Brian Brzee, silent. Miles Murphy, silent. And I know they were without Xavier Thomas tonight. He probably would have gotten the same treatment. Look,
wouldn't have mattered.
He's a backup for them, Sean. I mean,
dude, I knew I was watching something that I had never seen before or had not seen in a long time at Notre Dame when they went to Dabo on the sideline after they had scored and Notre Dame went right back down and rammed the ball down their throat again and scored. At the beginning of the drive, Dabo looked at his assistants and said, man, we got to do something different. And I'm like, dude, Dabo, there's nothing you can do because this is not schematic.
No.
This is man on man. We're pushing you and moving you against your will, and there's nothing you can do to change it.
It was soul stealing.
It was like what was Rasheem Green was the defensive lineman for USC a few years ago, right? Where Quentin Nelson just snatched his soul out of him in that last second half drive, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Jesse, I feel like we would be remiss because we're going to talk about the offensive side of the football, the good, the troubling, something needs to improve. But, I mean, these guys have already kind of started the conversation, right? We got to start with this offensive line. I mean, for me personally, Joe Alt, I mean, he just kind of continues to just be that guy, right? But the whole offensive line across the board was fantastic tonight. And I'll tell you what, guys, and Jesse, I'll kick it over to you, just talk about this offensive line. I think, and this is without watching the film upon further review that'll be tomorrow night, right? But I believe Blake Fisher became a man tonight. I think that he baptized some people tonight. But Jesse, kind of your thoughts on the offensive line?
Yeah, being able to listen to the game on TV, you get a little bit of different kind of perspective and how you're seeing things. And, Jason Garrett kind of talked all night that they were doing this duo block scheme, essentially where they're, letting their tackles go double team on these defensive linemen and let the running back choose to hit the hole or bounce it to the outside. And that's what makes it a duo read. Essentially, you can do one or the other, but each time your linemen are coming off, firing off, getting these double teams off them immediately. And that's just what we saw all night. It was just the same kind of run plays out of different formations. It was just different kind of, putting makeup on the same thing, but they just executed their dominance of running the same type of, power run all evening. And I think it was most evident in that drive right before half where they ran like 10 straight plays in a row, continuously just lining up, gashing them for 5 or 6 plays in a row. The whole offensive line is working in unison, firing off, getting on these blocks. And it was just evident that was such a huge drive going into halftime of taking a 2-score lead and just executing on the run like that continuously, like punch after punch after punch. And Clemson couldn't do anything about it. And it was just the greatest feeling all night watching them punch them in the mouth like this in the run game. And Clemson just couldn't get off the floor. They just kept taking it blow after blow. And I've never seen this sort of physical dominance before. And this is the number 4 team in the country we're talking about. This isn't just, your standard run in the mill. This is a Dabo Sweeney team that Notre Dame just handled this evening. And it was because of the offensive line. Without this offensive line, they don't win the game.
Yeah, well, Vince, it's interesting because we've kind of been pushing back on like, hey, your running game needs to be a little more diverse, right? Like we're just seeing duo. Well, tonight that didn't matter. That did not matter, man. They physically imposed their will on that Clemson front seven this game.
And you can do, they ran some inside and some outside zone. I mean, they did some other things, which was great to see. And I loved, getting Tyree in space. I thought that was, fantastic. Yes, they ran him between the tackles, but that was to give the other 2 guys who each had over 100 yards on the ground, a little bit of a breather, which I have no problem with. And we talked about it in the pregame show that, look, you can run Tyree between the tackles. You just got to soften them up a little bit first, right? And, Notre Dame tenderized that front 7 of Clemson all night long. They softened them up. They did exactly what they needed to do. So I had no problem with that. But, yeah, I mean, it was soul stealing. It was amazing. It was anything. If you just like ground and pound football, if you like when a team just absolutely physically dominates another team, then this is the game for you. If you're a Notre Dame fan, like it just Brian and Sean Stiers, we were in the booth, obviously, and we were in the press box, and we're just laughing and joking. Like it never felt like this game was in doubt. You know what I mean? Like Notre Dame controlled this game from start to absolute finish. And it was just so much fun to watch. I mean, we're cracking jokes and we're having a great time. And you would have thought that we were playing like Navy or something. I just never felt like Notre Dame was in any kind of danger. It was great.
You know, what's crazy to me is Clemson came off the bye week too. They had an extra week to get prepared and healthy. I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but when you get an extra week in these big games and you're allowed to get healthy and you still come out and look like this, what were you preparing for in these 2 weeks? Like, you knew Notre Dame was going to run the ball, and that's the whole way that their offense goes. Like, if they can't run the ball, they can't really do anything, and they couldn't shut that down worth a crap, and they had 2 weeks to prepare for it. That's what's like kind of crazy. And the tradition goes on. Notre Dame dominates teams after teams coming off the bye week. Everyone always seems to put their bye in front of Notre Dame. And again, they come out and just dominate. That's what makes it even crazier is that Clemson had 2 weeks to prepare, and that's how they came out this week.
Well, that's why I'm still like kind of just collecting my thoughts on it, man. Because like I watched the game, and I'm just like, Notre Dame literally could have done anything they wanted to in that football game from a run game perspective. Like the push and the consistency. And I mean, we're getting to the running backs, right? But Logan Diggs ran like a man tonight. Audric Estime ran like a man tonight. Like those
Logan Diggs ran like Audric Estime. I mean, he ran with a purpose. He ran downhill. He ran hard. Like it at times, because we're up on the 9th floor, right at the press box. Like there were times when 3 was running the ball, and you're like, "Is that 7?" Like I wasn't really sure if that was the same. Like because he was running like low shoulder pads. I mean, winning the leverage game, just knocking dudes back. Look, nobody runs harder than Audric, obviously, because he's got the beef to do that. I mean, there was one play where he actually ran over a defensive end, like ran him over. You know, running backs aren't supposed to be able to do that, man. Like that was running. I used to tell my running backs in high school all the time, run pissed off, run like you're pissed off at the world. That's what Notre Dame did today, and it was beautiful.
Yeah, listening to Logan Diggs after the game when they asked him, you know, when did you know that you were going to have success on the ground? And he said, my 3rd carry. He said, because I could just see how we were moving them. And I said to myself, yeah, we're going to run the ball tonight. And I was like, yo, that early? But I think it was like his first carry. He ended up with a 3-yard carry. And I was like, okay, I could see, even though Clemson, you know, had the weeks off, had the extra week, like Jesse said. Ryan, we talked about it during the week, and you guys, you know, broke it down when you did the matchups. The running backs, the last 2 games against the Clemson defense averaged 4.5 yards per carry.
Yeah.
The running back.
And that's in college football where sacks count for lost yardage, right?
Absolutely.
Just for your point. Yeah.
So, you know, people came into this game thinking this was like the 2018 19 Clemson, you know, they're really good, but they're not the Lawrence and those big guys, Grady Jarrett. No, it's a total difference. They're more getting to the backfield, quickness. They really don't want to line up and just bang with you. And I think Notre Dame saw that. They saw the success that Florida State had in the running game. They saw the early success that Sean Tucker had.
Yes.
Right? And they just didn't give him the ball. He had 50 yards and 5 carries, and Syracuse never went back to him with a double-digit lead. And you could just tell Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame just made it up in their minds. Oh, we're not giving up on the run. We're going to keep doing it. And I think maybe it was like the second quarter where I started to see physically Clemson just kind of like start to break physically and mentally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I would describe this. People might overlook this, but that first drive of the 3rd quarter where they ended up, I think, having a punt from like midfield was huge because they were backed up.
Yep.
Right? And Clemson could have gotten momentum. Notre Dame was going into the wind. If Clemson keeps them pinned and then gets a short field, who knows what happens? But they're able to run the ball out, run clock, change field position, and put Clemson back inside the 10, and now you're cooking with grease.
Right.
And they keep the same thing going. So I thought that was even though it didn't end up in points, that was a very important drive to start the 3rd quarter that once again established their physical dominance, even though it didn't lead to points.
You know what else was refreshing too, Vince? And we saw this a lot tonight. We saw some 21 personnel. We saw we did. Chris Tyree.
Not enough of it though.
Space. Not enough of it.
Not enough 21. We did see it though.
It's in the playbook, Vince. It's in the
Yes.
playbook, right? It's still in there.
We were joking about that.
Playbook. Yeah.
No. We were joking about that in the press box because they had a lot of success with 21 personnel. Obviously, that's when they got it out to Tyree and they did some other things. And it was like, they must have been too successful with it. They're not going to come back to that tonight, But they didn't need to, obviously. But every time they run 21, and I guarantee you, Sean Stiers is going to talk about this on Monday or Tuesday when he's back on the show. And he's going to talk about 21 personnel and how, because he was keeping track of all the personnel packages and everything. 21 is successful every time they do it, and they just don't come back to it. It's almost like just a finesse or something situation that they go to. But I'll tell you one other thing because people are talking about the electricity in the stadium. Mm-hmm. It's the loudest of the stadium I've ever heard in person. There's no question about that. And Brian and I on purpose went out and listened to the intros. Now we both almost got blown off of the 9th floor because the wind was so high, but it was incredibly loud. It was incredibly boisterous. I had one of my friends was in the stands and he's like, people haven't sat down the entire game. I'm like, where are you? He's like, I'm in Notre Dame Stadium. I'm like, okay, whatever. The crowd was actually fantastic. And right around the start of the 4th quarter, I looked to my left at the Clemson section. 3/4 of them were gone. I mean, gone. It was almost empty. Never seen that before at Notre Dame Stadium in a big game, ever. So, they all missed Clemson's last touchdown. It was just the stadium went silent when they scored.
Yeah. So it was 35. It was 35-7 in their books. Then we'll leave it there.
Pretty much. But, yes, absolutely.
Vince, a cool little tidbit, right? I'm not going to disclose the recruits yet because there'll be some articles and some intel on the sports.irishbreakdown.com. But asking about the atmosphere, Sean, you got from one, it was indescribable. Truly was electric. Had from another recruits, I'm in awe. What an incredible performance. Had from another recruits, who's a important one for Notre Dame. We'll just leave it at that. Said insane atmosphere, the craziest game I have ever been to. So there is a lot of happy people behind the scenes, folks, not only from the coaching perspective, and we didn't even talk about the coaches. We'll probably have to talk about the coaches and go back around here in a little bit here, right? But there's just so much excitement, obviously, in the air. Coaches, players on the team, people rushing the field, which is bananas. You talk about the recruits. I mean, this is one of those games, man, that we've talked about. For Notre Dame to get to where they want to go, they have to beat these types of teams, right? The teams that have been on the mountaintop for the last decade. Like, this is the type of game, right? Try not to backtrack to a all-encompassing, a little bit more of a macro view because we want to get micro here, right, with the things that we really liked. But I will say this. I thought that the blocking, because we just talked about the offensive line being the backbone of this game, the running game, obviously – crazy thing, and I just keep thinking about this, Vince, is that all the running backs that we saw tonight can all be back in 2023, which is absolutely absurd. But we'll talk about that, obviously, in the future. But, Sean, blocking across the board, man, like this wasn't just an offensive line effort, right? I saw Jane Thomas blocking his butt off. I saw the wide receivers in general blocking their butts off. I thought Michael Mayer, for the 2nd straight game, blocked incredibly well. Right? So you have the tight ends blocking, wide receivers. I think the biggest thing, and this is where I want to open this conversation to, but before you do, we had over 2,000 people in here. We start hitting that like button, by the way, folks. But it's easy when things aren't going early for people to just kind of sit back and say, woe is me, or not show belief. But guys, Marcus Freeman and his staff got this team to buy in tonight. Boy, did they. Taking on this type of team in a home stadium where you haven't been playing your best football this year, and you punch this type of team in the mouth. I mean, all encompassing for a second, Sean. That's impressive of this coaching staff to get this team prepared and to this level.
And we thought they would. We had our doubts, based upon certain things, but incrementally, week to week, we saw changes being made. And whether it was Marcus Freeman saying something or whether it was the coordinator saying something. And then something happened in that Syracuse game. Marcus Freeman seemed to take full accountability and responsibility for things and take much more control on the sidelines. And he was even more demonstrative tonight, especially when it came to the hit on Drew Pine in the first half. I'm shocked he didn't get a flag thrown on the way he was going at the refs. So,
well, he did kind of. They threw the sideline warning. That was direct. Yeah. That was directly at Marcus Freeman.
He was,
but rightfully so. Rightfully so, though, right? Because that was the targeting that was reviewed and never called targeting. Like,
well, it should have, at very least, it should have been a roughing the passer. Like, at very least, yeah.
And I mean, let's be honest. Both the targeting review. Sorry to cut you off, Sean. I apologize. Both of the targeting reviews should have been targeting on both sides. Henderson should have been gone and Trotter should have been gone, in my opinion. Both of those were terrible non-calls.
But man, look, it just goes to show the direction of the program, which is why we were all hopeful during the week of how this game would go. Not so much because of Clemson. We've been saying it for weeks. Every game from this point on is about Notre Dame and how they play. If they play up to their level, they will be successful. And you see tonight, they don't need Drew Pine to be extra special.
They didn't tonight. Don't.
That's why what Marcus Freeman said this week was people overlooked it. But when he said it, I said, this team is there. He said, we're the team we need to be today, but we're not the team that we're going to be. He understands where the program needs to be from a talent standpoint to be a national championship contender, but he has gotten this team to a point to be able to beat good teams the way they need to beat them now.
Yep.
He's not sitting there complaining about his quarterback room. He leaves that up to us. Right. He's not complaining about it. He said, I have to figure out a way to win with these guys, and we can do it. And everybody is bought in. Look, he didn't have the best performance tonight, but you darn right I was happy for Drew Pine. That's a huge win. That's a huge win for the kid. Huge win on his resume. He deserves it. Happy he got the touchdown at the end of the game to Michael Mayer. Like I said at the start, tonight, it's all about the kids. It's all about the kids, the coaches, the program. You can see the evidence of the work that they put in. You can see the confidence. You can see their resiliency. You can see everything, man. You got performances from leaders, seniors, freshmen becoming stars right before our eyes. Like everything that you could want to see on one of the biggest recruiting nights. What do we say all week, Ryan? We can talk about text messages, calls. There's nothing better than the product on the field in recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
You want to make an impact in recruiting? Put the product on the field. That's for itself. That was the greatest thing that could happen. And it's bigger. We'll talk about this and go in depth and the intel piece, and we'll probably talk about it Monday, Ryan. It goes beyond the players that were there.
Yep.
There were guys at home watching that might have been saying, oh, and it's like, you know what? Man.
It's
impressive. It was big.
Yeah.
This is huge.
Sean, I think I said it in the recruiting breakdown I did for the Monday for the Saturday morning show, the countdown to kickoff show. Mm-hmm. I said that you want to actualize it, right? Like you see the vision, you hear the vision, but until you can really be there and feel it and know it's real, right? Like that's actualizing something. And I feel like that's what you did from the recruiting side tonight, right? Like all the Christopher Joneses of the world and all these great players that we have been kind of highlighting all week, Carson Hobbs, all these guys. We talked a lot about Caleb Smith. We talked about these guys being in the stadium for this type of game, for this type of atmosphere. And I put an article out this morning about what it would mean for recruiting to have a victory like this against this type of football team, right? It is just so eminently important. And beyond just the recruiting for a second, because we are the recruiting guys up here on the top, right? But I mean, Vince, like this is what this team needs, right? This is what the success that these young players need. We talk about Joe Alt all the time. We talk about Blake Fisher and the young guys that are making plays on the offensive and defensive side of the football. This is what they need to feel. They felt it tonight, right? This is the vision. This is what Marcus Freeman's selling to us. didn't get started off great, but now we're moving in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Right? That for me is the big point of emphasis in this one. And I don't want to be too negative here, obviously, on the show during this great victory, right? So let's just leave it like this. And we can talk about it if you guys want to talk about it. But offensive line dominate the football game. Running backs continue to show that they are the X factors of this offense. Shout out to Michael Mayer, who, although only had 5 targets of the night, caught a touchdown and really did the dirty work in this type of football game. There are still things that need to get better. There's no doubt, right? The passing game is still not where you need it to be on a week-to-week basis to beat any team any given Saturday. It's not. Needed to be better. I mean, your leading wide receiver in this football game, I believe, was Jane Thomas with 3 catches for 15 yards. Like, that's an issue, right? That's an issue. Quarterback is still an issue. There's no doubt. But today, it was good enough to beat the number 4 team in the country. So let's not dwell on that too much. We'll be talking about that upon further review. We'll be talking about what's next for those units next week. Let's get into defense. And, I mean, over 2,200 people in here. Again, hit that like button. Throw me a Go Irish in the chat, man. Can we get a little pumped up in here? Come on. We get it a little bit. All right. So, defensive-wise, Jesse, I'm going to start with you, man. How can we not start with Tobias Merriweather? How can we not do it? The secondary in general. How can we not do it? Fantastic tonight. 2 interceptions for Benjamin. Or did I say Tobias?
Yeah, you sure did.
Other star freshman.
He could probably play defense too. I mean,
he'd be a heck of a safety, we're being honest.
Right.
Benjamin Morrison, 2 interceptions on the night, pick 6 on the second of the night. I mean, he looked fantastic, man. Run support, getting off of blocks, making tackles. They could not get on top of him, working down the vertical element of the field. They tried. They couldn't make it happen. Could not make it happen. Forcing turnovers. Secondary is where we need to start tonight, Jesse, because they were balling tonight.
Yeah, so I think that Benjamin Morrison, he obviously that's the star of the game, right? He had the 2 interceptions. He has the one on Klubnik and Klubnik's first possession after they switched from DJ to him. And he gets that inside the red zone, sets up points. And I think the more impressive thing about the pick 6 drive for Morrison is during that drive, there were 3, at least 3, maybe 2 consecutive penalties that were just very ticky-tacky, right? Like they're the one, I can't think of the guy's name, but he's just playing the ball. He's straight out playing the ball. They get a defensive pass interference. The next play, another ticky-tack pass interference. And rather than dwell on that, these guys, it motivates them. Morrison jumps back on the route after these kind of crappy penalties. You could have let those things kind of take over, but they didn't. They blocked it out, and he gets that pick and takes it all the way back. That's huge, in my opinion, and that shows the mental growth I think that we've seen this season, especially on this defense. And again, they did things. Morrison, I have his name written down so many times. I don't understand why teams want to go after him. Like they go after him deep in coverage, and he continuously shows that that's not going to work. And then the screens on the outside, Morrison's blowing up. I just don't understand why these teams continuously think he's the guy to test when he's the guy that's making all the plays right now. And then, you throw in Bracey on the blitzes on 3rd down, blowing up the quarterback. Just Bracey had another great game tonight. So I just thought Notre Dame did a really great job in the secondary, obviously Morrison, and they did a good job of getting, setting up Clemson in these 3rd and longs, the tackles for losses, the blown up plays on blitzes. Like it was a combined defensive effort. And when you put teams, specifically Clemson, in these 3rd and longs, it allows your secondary to do a lot of great things. And that's kind of what we saw tonight.
Yep. I think it's really well said. And I mean, it was just because you mentioned so many different players, right, Jesse? Like that was the impact. Like we're going to talk about Benjamin Morrison a ton, and I wish Brian Driscoll could be on the show right now, but there's some.
The internet is back in our neighborhood, so there's a chance once he gets home, he might jump in. So
let's hope.
I do have to throw out some love to my buddy Ed, who is like, "Hey man, just come over to my house and do the show." So I'm trying not to wake everybody up in his house, but here I am. I couldn't not be on this show. Like if they lost, I'd be like, no internet at my house. Dang it. Can't do the post-game show. But, there is no way I wasn't going to be on this show. I mean, are you kidding me? So I'm hoping Brian can jump on. He was going to do some work at the stadium and then drive out. I got here pretty quick because, half the stadium was on the field. So there wasn't as much traffic, which was pretty great. But, I mean, it was the secondary for Notre Dame. The only thing that worries me, and I don't know, maybe they just took him out because it was towards the end of the game or whatever, but I thought I saw Brandon Joseph limping a little bit. Maybe that was my imagination. Hopefully he's not injured for a long period of time, because you still need him returning punts. You still need his leadership back there at safety. You know, there were some nitpicky things for me at safety tonight, but the corners played outstanding. I mean, they were making tackles. They weren't whiffing on tackles for the most part tonight. They were at the very least holding guys up while the entire defense rallied to the football in open space, which was fantastic. They tried to pick on Ben Morrison all night long. I don't think we're ever going to see that again.
It's everyone's game plan. I don't understand what everyone's seeing on film that's like, let's
they
go
see
after
true
Morrison.
freshmen. They see true freshmen, and they're like, hey, let's go after this guy.
Yep.
Not going to work. I mean, the only balls that were caught on him, I think, were when he was playing off, when he's playing 3 deep coverage, and they threw it underneath to him, or, you know, to his guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
They completed a couple comebacks and you know, nothing serious. Like it was, yeah. Well, that's why I wanted Brian to be on this one, Vince, because we have to throw Brian a bone here, right? Like he's been telling us about Morrison for
I know.
How many months, you know?
But he tweeted something about my guy, Benjamin Morrison, you know, so I'm going to give him credit.
Does he claim him?
Yes, he does.
He's on royalty every time they talk about 20 now.
I think he actually lives in Brian's basement.
It's Benjamin Morrison, and then Jaden Osbury will be moving in. Like,
That's so funny. That's so funny. But I know someone mentioned it in the chat, and I have to mention it, right? There were a lot of people critical of Mike Mickens before the year, and he's silenced that, hasn't he? Talk about Benjamin Morrison with his big showing tonight. Jesse mentioned Tariq Bracy, blanket coverage, and then he gets the sack on the nickel fire. Fantastic. I mean, some ticky. Can we talk about this for a second? Pass interference calls tonight were terrible, man.
42 consecutive yards of penalties on that one drive before Benjamin Morris took it back 96 yards because they called either an offensive holding or a pass interference on 1, 2, 3, 4 straight plays that got him from the minus 25 to the plus 33. And that was when it was still 14-0. I leaned over to Brian. I was like, well, the refs got to talking to at halftime about how this game isn't close enough. They literally pushed Clemson down the field into plus territory. And thank goodness for number 20. And, obviously it was not a great throw by DJ Uiagalelei, but at the same time, he played it well and still took it to the house. So, you got to give credit where credit is due. But 42 straight yards and penalties, come on, man. That was bad. That was just bad.
I thought DJ Brown. Because we talk about DJ and his cover skills and not really having the range. That was like Jesse said, that pass interference call was awful. Literally, the offense, he was the one in position to intercept the ball.
Yes.
Anything,
you're allowed to go after the ball. You're allowed to play the ball. Are you kidding me?
Well, they had 2 on DJ Brown that were pretty bad, man. The first one on Cam Hart, I was like, all right, if you want to call a hold on that, I'm all right, right? It's fine. But the one on DJ Brown was just heinous, man. That was so bad, just so bad. There was some things tonight that I was just kind of shaking my head at. Those penalties, the Clemson putting in Cade Klubnik in for that one series and then being like, nope, come back. You're good.
Come
back on the bench. I'm like, all right.
But didn't it feel somebody in the chat said it. That felt desperate. That move felt desperate to me at that time. And that's a ballsy move to put him in that close to, with his back to the end zone like that. And then you roll him out and you throw I don't know, man. That is a questionable coaching call to me on that one. That was rough. That was rough. And then you pull him right away and put DJ back in. So you have just crushed this kid's confidence completely, Yeah. So.
Because, before that, I was just kind of watching it. And I'm like, all right, DJ's not great, but is he the reason that you're losing right now? At that point, it wasn't, in my opinion, right? I was watching, I'm just it's not really DJ's fault. I agree, Vince. It was kind of desperate. You threw him in to try to get a change up and all that's cool. But if you're going to make that change, just stick with him, man. You're already down by, 3 scores at that point. Just stick with him at that point. It was just very, very odd decision from Dabo and the offensive staff there. But back to the positives. If we got, sorry, Vince, go ahead.
One more thing while we're talking about the refs. I do want to say one more thing, and it's a positive, okay? As bad as the refs were, this is how you don't allow the refs to control the game. This is how you make it so that the refs have no say in the outcome, right? Because you just bully ball the crap out of the other team, and you're like, there's nothing you can call here that is going to change the outcome of this game, right? Mm-hmm. Which we always tell every coach on the planet tells the kid, don't let the refs decide this game. You decide the game. Notre Dame decided the game regardless of the refs, and that hasn't always been the case. And so that was very nice to see that it didn't matter how bad the refereeing was. Notre Dame wasn't going to lose this game.
Yeah, Notre Dame only had 5 penalties and 3 came on that one drive. So you get rid of those, and that's just clean football. And that's what you want to do when you're playing the number 4 team in the country. You have to clean up every facet of the game, your penalties, your offense, your defense, the special teams. And that's what they did. They just dominated every facet of the ball game tonight.
Yep.
Sean, for the second straight week, I can say something positive about the linebacker group. Man.
Yes,
I can do it. I can do it, man. I can do it.
But it goes back to they've been listening to IB.
They have, man.
You've been begging for them to activate these guys and stop allowing them just to think and react. No, either bring them straight downhill and let them play, or send them somewhere. And that's what they did all night.
Yep.
All night. Run blitz up the middle, scheme, come off the edge, loop the outside guy inside. They did everything.
Yes, they did.
Up a nickel fire. Look, Al Golden, hey, salute. Salute.
Yeah.
It was obvious that you were not about to allow DJ to be comfortable at all tonight. At all. You gave him different coverages. You went man to man. You went cover 3. You went too deep. You even went single high a couple of times and challenged him. He couldn't make the throw on the fade there to Ngata, I think. Yep. And he tried to hit Bo Collins a couple of times against Benji. I call him Benji. I'm sorry. But he couldn't.
Hey, they got home on a safety blitz, Sean. Okay.
Imagine that.
When you get home on a safety blitz, you know everything's working. Okay.
That's very true.
But it was amazing. It was amazing to watch the linebackers play well. The eye discipline. I think when I knew JD, I was like, okay. When he got when they tried to bring Williams, was that Williams they tried to bring on the jet sweep?
Yeah, he got that tackle for loss for 5-6 yards.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It set up a 3rd and long after that.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, JD's locked in tonight.
He shot that gap quick.
Yeah, quick.
Yep.
Very quick.
Yep.
And it's like, where's that been? Like, we've been asking you to do that all year. That's all we want. Like, even if you make a mistake, just be aggressive.
Right.
Yes. And I think what you got across the board was Maris was solid, made a couple plays, made a couple splash plays. Jack Kaiser was solid, didn't hear his name much, but sometimes that's a good thing, right? That means that you're not giving up much. Prince Kali had the punt scoop and score on the pump block, which was fantastic to see. But guys, and you already started talking about it, Sean. JD Bertrand played the best game of his career by a landslide.
Absolutely.
Oh,
no
man.
doubt.
I saw someone in the chat was like, JD was solid. What? JD was solid. JD was solid.
Give the man his credit.
Look, man. I am going to be as critical of JD Bertrand when he has a bad game, and I have been as critical of JD Bertrand as I have been when he's had a bad football game. JD Bertrand was phenomenal tonight. Absolutely phenomenal. It was phenomenal. I didn't see a missed tackle. I thought he was in the right spot all the time. Like Jesse said, quick trigger to break down that jet sweep. I mean, he was all over the place, man. JD Bertrand, I feel a little bad for him because, Benjamin Morrison steals the show with what he did, right? But on any other given night, it'd be like JD Bertrand was the best player on the field, by far, right? Yeah. Like, he was just such a guy tonight, man. Really was.
It was
12 tackles, 9 solo, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss.
Yeah.
Come on.
That's a great
that's your middle linebacker doing work.
It's good to see. And now he has the Naval Academy. He's going to have about 14 tackles against Navy.
Probably right.
So,
yep.
It should end up being a good 3 weeks of linebacker football here that we should see. But that's what it goes back to what I said at the beginning, guys. Like, you just feel good for these guys because you know how tough it's been. You know the ups and downs, the emotions, especially for the guys that have been here and been successful and got used to either making a college football playoff or being in the running for a college football playoff, and to get those 2 early losses.
Yeah.
And then to win games and then to come back down against Stanford and have to recover and believe in themselves once again and get back to this level and put forth the dominant performance that they put forth tonight. You can't do anything but tip your cap and say, congratulations. Like, this is well earned, well deserved. And if I could stand up right now and give a standing ovation, I would. But I will be out of the picture. I'm not going to do that. It's not aesthetically pleasing. But look, man, it just wasn't aesthetically pleasing. But the linebacker play has probably been. Let's be honest. We have tried to literally avoid talking linebacker play on post-game shows.
Yes.
Like, literally, like, you know what? We're not even talking about that. We're not talking about it. Tonight, it is our pleasure to talk about the linebackers. Jordan Botello with the punt block.
Yep.
Tone setter. It was a tone setter. I mean, that was an absolute tone setter for that game, because that was on the second possession. Notre Dame, they do okay on their first drive, but of course they punted away, and then the defense comes out and they block a punt. I mean, and it's obviously 7-0 right there. That's just about as good as the pick six for the first game, right? Or the first play of the game last week. I mean, that was a freaking tone setter, and it was fantastic. And credit to Sean Stiers for this one. During the pregame show, he said Notre Dame has won 26 consecutive ACC regular season games going into this one. I didn't know the 27 was coming, but I tell you what, number 27, nobody can. There's no but after this game. There's no, they did win, but, because that's what was said after 2020 against Clemson, right? There was no Trevor Lawrence. There was no, the 3 guys that were missing on defense. It was a good win, but, right? There's no but after this one. Notre Dame dominated Clemson. They didn't have to go to double overtime to beat a depleted Clemson team. They beat them from the first whistle of the game, and it was never in doubt. There's no but after this game. Notre Dame dominated the number 4 team in the country, period.
Yeah. And we talked about this one yesterday, Vince, and I said something very similar. There's no asterisk next to this game, right? Like, there's nothing. Exactly. They had all their guys. They're healthy, about as healthy as you can be in the sport of football. Notre Dame took it to the number 4 team in the country, physically dominate them, right? So, defensive line-wise, I guess if we're going there, we talked about linebackers a little bit. So defensive line-wise, Isaiah Foskey had a big sack in this football game. Felt like DJ early on in this football game for me, guys, when I was watching, I feel like he was uncomfortable settling in the pocket, right? Like, I feel like there was a little bit of trash that he was kind of trying to work through, and his process was getting sped up, especially early on in this football game. Like, immediately, you saw a lot of some cheap stuff right before halftime with Jason Adebolola. I don't know if you guys saw that cheap shot by Walker Parks.
Well, Jason was very confident in his play at that point. Yes. And at the end because they sacked DJ obviously on the last play of the first half, right? And Jason was very confident in that play, and he was letting Clemson know about it, right? Which I have no problem with whatsoever. And he tripped the trigger of the Clemson kid, and he pushed Jason. Jason went flying back. I mean, it was pretty fantastic. And look, I give Notre Dame a lot of credit. They didn't jump in and start anything, but they went and got Jason, and they went to the tunnel, and they just went and started hyping up the crowd as they were exiting, through the tunnel, which was freaking great. I mean, that was, again, it was another tone setter going into halftime, because Notre Dame dominated the first half, which was fantastic. We're all wondering, can they continue to dominate in the second half? And they go into the locker room just fired up, and they got the crowd fired up. I haven't seen the crowd like this ever. And after every kickoff, right, that went down towards the student section, so when they were kicking to the north, the entire kick team would run into the end zone, run in front of the student section, and just get them all hyped up. That doesn't happen at Notre Dame Stadium ever. Ever. I don't think people understand that. It never happens. And it was so good to see. It was so good. It was that actual home field advantage.
And for the 100th straight week, I feel like the interior defensive line doesn't get enough credit for the job that they did.
Right.
Look, I'll say this. Will Shipley's a good football player, man. He had a couple nice runs, and he's good. He's a good player. But for the most part, they made things very difficult for that run game, right?
Yes.
Like, they made things very difficult. I see Chris Smith doing a good job inside. We talked about Jason Abalola. Howard Cross, I feel like, is just the guy that is never going to get enough credit, although he's just a very solid football player. So for me, like, the defensive line, I felt like we talked about the offensive line setting the tone and really being that physically imposing unit. I really felt like the defensive line was like the physical counteractor, right? Like, they were just like, nope, not today. And then they were just kind of pitching a tent right there in the backfield. Like, this was that type of game for me.
Yep.
That was like my favorite thing, Jesse, of this game is like, I felt like everything that Clemson got was difficult. You know, like there's some games where a team just is, you're like, wow, you're making some easy things way too easy, right? You're making some hard things way too easy. For me, they were just not letting Clemson get anything easy. Everything, whether it is a 5-yard run, a 5-yard out, a comeback route, whatever, everything looked just kind of difficult for Clemson tonight, which I think is a testament to how this defense played.
Yeah, I mean, Notre Dame's biggest priority had to be to stuff Shipley. Shipley was the 25th, best running back in the nation. Whether, he's good, but he's not great. He's average. But yeah, they stopped up the run and everything. Even on these screenplays, everything just became such a battle. They only ran for a team as 90 yards. They DJ threw the ball 40 times, but only had 200 passing yards, and most of that came towards the end. So like you said, they were battling for everything that they had to get, whether it was, these run plays that were getting stopped up, these screens that they kept trying to go back to. Everything was fighting for yards. And the entire time, Notre Dame was just like, nope, we're not going to let you do that. You're going to have to you're going to have to try to do other things. And I think that was the most confusing part for me on Clemson's side is they just kept doing the same stuff, even though it wasn't working. They kept going to those perimeter screens, even though those were getting blown up. Like, why not try something over the middle, the slants, the seams, just something else? But they just continuously kept falling into it, not doing what was going to work for them. They kept doing the same plays over and over, and Notre Dame just kept stopping and be like, "Is this the best you have?" And it just was kind of shocking considering this is the number 4 team. It was the Dabo Swinney led team. And they just kept falling into Notre Dame's traps. Yeah. And again, I'm really confused why they didn't try more of the middle of the field against Notre Dame when Notre Dame was basically daring them to do it, and they still just didn't want to take any shots. So to me, that kind of shows Dabo's lack of trust in DJ's downfield kind of presence. They stuck to those short passes all night.
They did, and I will say that they were absolutely 100% married to the RPO game. Yeah, and they weren't going to go away from it. And they did not want to divorce that RPO game, man. And the RPOs kept telling DJ to go outside, and throwing all those bubble screens. I mean, over, and I've got that written down 25, 30 times on my.
They blew it up every time.
Every single time, and that's because, and look, when they should have went away from it, obviously, way before they did. But at the same time, if you watch Notre Dame play, what were they bad at? Tackling in space.
Yeah.
Right? So they're like, hey, if we get the ball out to the perimeter to our guys that are good in space, Notre Dame's going to crumble. They're not going to be able to do it. But they tackled in space. And not only that, but they rallied to the football, and they did all these great things on the perimeter. And Clemson should have gone away from it sooner than they did, but they just kept assuming that Notre Dame was going to miss these tackles, and they didn't. So, I mean, shout out to the defense for not missing those tackles, obviously. They went against the game plan that Clemson had, and the RPOs kept forcing them to go outside because they were playing the run game so well. And, again, that's all levels of the defense playing well, and it all clicked tonight.
Yeah. And I mean, a quick shout out to Al Golden, because I feel like there was I don't think that he got too exotic from a coverage perspective, right? Like, I think that he just went like, my dudes are going to be dudes tonight. I'm going to play off, man. I'm going to play it. It's on. I'm going to make them try to beat me down the field, because we know that what they have, right? They have Joseph Ngata, Bo Collins. They're bigger wide receivers that are win down the football field, vertical guys with their catch point stuff, right? That wasn't a recipe for success against them. And defensively, I mean, I think that, Sean, you said it perfectly, right? They were aggressive on the second level. Like, let's get downhill. Let's give them some different pressure looks. There was a lot of great stuff, I think, in this football game from a defensive game plan perspective of being creative in certain areas, but not being overly creative on all three levels. Because sometimes when you try to get too creative, that kind of works against each other, right? Like, because you're trying to do a little bit too much. I thought there was a great balance during this game of, hey, part of our guys are just going to eliminate some dudes that we know that we have the advantage over defensive line-wise and linebacker-wise. We're going to give them a little bit of different areas of kind of movement up front and on the second level. And I feel like they took advantage of that aggressiveness with the pressure they were able to create.
Hey, Brian. What's up,
guys?
Man? Welcome
the
to
internet's
the show.
back, Vince.
I know, right? Of course, I get all settled in at my buddy's house down the street, and our internet's back. But that's okay. Welcome to the show,
guys,
sir.
What did I miss? You guys talking about anything, or?
I mean, we were kind of trading recipes and things like that.
Okay.
But
okay. Has it worn off for y'all yet?
No.
Nope.
Like, I know y'all covered this, but I was talking to my dad. I can't believe how physically dominant this game was, guys. Like, and this was, I'll say this was the most complete performance I've seen from, meaning like they dominated in every single phase of the game: offense, special teams, defense. Clemson knew they were going to try to block the punt, and they still couldn't stop them from blocking punts. Got one, almost got two, actually. Didn't they get two?
Yeah.
Looked like they got a second, and then almost blocked two others. Defense dominated, offense dominated, and they did the one thing I didn't think they could do: line up, and Clemson knew exactly what was coming, and there wasn't a dang thing they can do about it. Jesse picked the right show to jump on, too, man. Like, where was he when we were talking about Marshall and Stanford? You know what I mean? Like,
seriously.
He gets to jump in when they beat number 4 by 21.
And it wasn't that close.
Yeah, it wasn't. It really wasn't. It was.
That's okay. Most of the Clemson fans that were there in person missed the last touchdown anyway. So
they missed the last couple touchdowns. They were out. They bounced early.
Yes, they did.
They bounced
What
early.
was I was interested, guys. You guys were there because there was a lot of chatter on social media about the number of Clemson fans that were going to be in the stadium, and people were upset and thought it might affect the atmosphere or it might not be as loud as they needed to be. Vince, I think you pointed out it was one of the loudest games you've been to in a while. But I don't know, go back when you guys get a chance to watch the TV copy.
Okay.
Marcus Freeman was like, man, stone face in the tunnel. I remember when he came out for the Syracuse game, he took a deep breath. He just took a deep breath like, okay, here we go. Tonight, it was just like he was just standing there like, yo, let's go kick that. Let's go do this. And I think his team took on his persona this week.
Yeah.
And you saw it. Like, I thought it was strange for a coach to say on a Monday, we're ready. My team is ready.
Yeah.
Like right now. My team is ready. I think they were so confident. I was even watching footage of them walking the walk to the stadium, from Mass. And it was just like, yo, like these kids look locked in. Like, people are trying to slap their hands and they're like, man, later for that. About to take care of business. And it was like, man, and to see it like manifest itself, I don't think any of us expected this.
No.
None of us expected this. And heck, we haven't seen a full performance like this from a Notre Dame team in a long time. Just physically just dominating someone and just a good team with that.
Sean, I'm going to say something that some of these guys aren't going to be able to quite maybe appreciate because they're younger. Vince, you will.
So I'm old now.
We've seen Notre Dame be a really physical football team in the past, right?
Yeah.
This reminded me of a vintage late 80s, early 90s Notre Dame team. I'm serious.
Yeah.
Where they didn't throw the ball a whole lot, but the pass game was there when you needed it.
Sure.
Your quarterback didn't make a lot of plays in the game with his arm, but he made some clutch plays with his arm. But just not just the physicality guys, but Sean, I think you just nailed it. It wasn't just they played physical; they played with. It's not swagger.
Oh yeah,
right. Like they played like we're the baddest dudes in the building tonight. I don't care if you're number 4. I don't care if you've won 2 titles in the last 6-7 years. We don't care that you're this. We don't care that you're that. This is our house, and you're about to catch one. And like Vince looked at me on the first series of the game, right? Notre Dame didn't go down and score, but Vince looks at me and he goes, they are pushing them off the line. Like, guys, it was immediate. And I'm going to tell you something right now. I don't know if you guys covered this, and I'm sure you did, but that could have been way worse.
Yes.
Like, there was a lot of – again, it's kind of like last week, Sean, when we did the show. It was like, and there's a lot of stuff that has been there before that was still there. Drew missed Mitchell Evans on an inside post route on a double post play. There was stuff like that where you kind of really felt like, boy, there's some stuff there, but they cleaned up a lot of it. It was cleaned up more than it was last week, but it's like, man, they could have hung a couple more on them. This doesn't happen. I mean, the refs gifted them a score with this one of the worst officiated games I've ever seen in my life. If the hit on Drew Pine's not targeting, then what is at this point in time, but please tell me y'all talked about my boy Benjamin Morrison. I mean, I'm on here tonight just being like, I tried to tell y'all.
Did he play?
I tried to tell y'all. Were y'all waiting on me to get here so you were holding off on the Benjamin talk till I got here?
Not quite. No.
I love y'all. Man.
We gave you props for him being your guy, though. We gave you props.
Did you build a room for Jaden Osbury when he moves in? Since Benjamin's already living with you.
I mean, if I'm as right about Benjamin or Jaden as I was about Benjamin, but here's the thing about that, though, guys. The picks were great, but if you took the 2 picks out, this was still the best game of his career.
Absolutely.
No doubt.
Yeah.
That's from a physicality and tackling standpoint. The way he tackled tonight, I was like, okay.
I will say this, Jesse, he still has to get in the weight room a little bit. Because there's a couple times where like, okay, yeah, he needs a little bit of weight room work on that.
As long as those DBs just get a hold of those ankles, that's really all you ask for.
All you ask.
But we also talked to, they tried him in deep shots too, and on those shots that they were taking on first down, and those weren't there either. Nothing was there against Morrison all evening.
The interesting thing too, guys, and I don't know if they showed this in the TV copy, but he wasn't even running. Vince, you and I saw it. Like he was like hip to hip with the guys, and he was like in front of them, and he was like trying to dare them to throw back shoulders because they know DJ's not real good at throwing like that kind of throw, but he was not running full speed. He was like kind of like, how good corners are supposed to be, right? Get in front of a guy. Yeah. And they tried to go at him deep several times. And he did a much better job this week than he did the last couple weeks of hand fighting without grabbing. That shows me good coaching too, guys. Because you're like, you're this close to finishing that off, man. Like do this instead of this. And jumping what was Dabo thinking? Putting Cade Klubnik in the game, backed up at his own 7.
We talked about that, man. It felt desperate.
Yeah. And then he took him out of the game after the
interception.
Right. Like, that kid's confidence is done. It's done. I mean, how can you have confidence after that? You throw one pass, it gets picked off. Granted, bad play, but then you're out. Like,
hey, it was a bad play, but Benjamin baited him into that.
Oh, 100%.
He was in trail position. So, and as soon as the ball, did they show this on the TV? As soon as the ball left his hands, Benjamin jumped right in front of it.
Yeah.
Like it was phenomenal.
There was good in-your-face pressure, too, that threw off Klubnik on that throw. I can't remember who it was, but I think
Justin
it was
Adamiola. It was Justin Adamiola was the guy in his face. Hey,
throwing late to the middle of the field doesn't usually work out too great.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you guys talk about the linebackers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Ryan, how was JD tonight?
I said this, Brian. I said I felt a little bad for JD because if Benjamin Morrison didn't do what he did, he would have been on almost every other game. He's the best player on the field. I mean, he was fantastic tonight, man. So, absolutely fantastic.
This is what I love about y'all and the crew and the team we've put together is I'm like jumping on an hour late. And I'm like, did y'all talk about this? Yeah. Did y'all talk about this? Yeah. Did y'all talk about this? Yeah.
How could we not?
Can I say one thing, though? And I know I'm sure you talked about it, but this is tonight we saw. I got a question for you. Who was the fastest, most athletic team on the field tonight?
Wasn't close.
Yeah.
It wasn't close, guys.
It wasn't close.
I mean, this is who we thought this team was going to be.
Right.
Athletic, fast, playing confidently. I loved Al Golden's game plan too, by the way. That corner fire he called where he had JD and Tariq both coming off the edge and he slanched JD in front of his face and Tariq nailed it. Yes. And man, it was that game was so much fun.
There were a few times where, you and I both thought that they were playing a little bit too soft and, allowing some stuff underneath, things like that. But they called the defense all the way to the end of the game. Like it wasn't hey, let's go in protect mode, that kind of a thing. Like he was calling blitzes at the end, which was friggin' great, man. Like we saw a game plan that went from start to finish. Some calls I didn't agree with, but I'm never going to agree with every call that's played, that every game.
Sure.
And same with the offense. We talked about that too. They're in clock killing mode and they're just running it right down Clemson's throat. Oh yeah, play action, touchdown to Michael Mayer.
Did you guys Vince, did you tell him what I said about that?
No,
I didn't. Go ahead, Jesse. Jesse, we're going to say?
That 3rd and 13 run by Estime when they're like they know they need to stop Notre Dame and he just bruises the 13-yard run.
Yeah,
I was like, "Are you kidding me?" It was like the epitome of the evening. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt there.
No, Jesse, that's what you got to do on the show, especially when I join. You got to interrupt, man, or you're not going to get a word in, baby. I'm just telling you right now.
But I mean, what you said in the press box when they went play action and they hit Michael Mayer on that 3rd down, I think it was. And you're like, that was a big FU to Clemson.
I said that was an FU play call. Is what?
Yeah,
that was Marcus Freeman and Tommy Reed was saying FU. Notre Dame,
and not in a disrespectful way, but like as a nail in the coffin way.
Get out of our
Notre Dame. Yes, exactly. You're not. We run this conference. We don't even need to play but 4 games in this league to let everybody know we're the best team in the conference. Simple as fact. That was a FU call. And that was a call that basically said, your dynasty is now officially over.
Mm-hmm.
The last team to rush for this many yards against Notre Dame, against Clemson, had a dude at quarterback, Sean. I'm not sure if you've heard of this kid. Oh, what's his name? He's from Florida. He played at Louisville. Oh, won a Heisman a couple years ago.
Did he wear number 8?
Yeah, I think so. Played for Bobby Petrino.
Maybe.
He plays with Kyle Hamilton on Sundays.
Plays for what's that NFL team in Baltimore? The Baltimore Browns. Lamar Jackson. That was the last team to rush for this many yards against Clemson. And and they threw for what, 86, 85,
86, something like that. Yeah.
Hey, can I say something about Drew Pine? I know you guys talk about this, but I want to say it. The kid
jump into Drew Pine very much, so this will be a good segue. Yeah.
So obviously, there's still stuff he's got to clean up. I mean, it was a crazy wind. He missed a couple reads, but that kid showed incredible toughness tonight. Like they were hitting him hard, including 2 shots that I thought there was twice they hit him where I was like, that's got to be a personal foul. If the one wasn't targeting, he took 2 steps after Drew threw it and hit him in the face. And he got up and I almost think they kind of like pissed him off. And I wonder if that's maybe if that kind of if that was kind of like maybe part of the reason they threw that pass late. But the thing too is, guys, I think we also saw something tonight. In the past, what was it, 21-0 at the end of the 3rd quarter, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the past, that game would have ended 21-7 or 28-14. But
Absolutely.
Marcus Freeman's team said, no, we're not done. We're playing 60 minutes of football tonight. And, man, and Sean, I don't know how much – I mean, maybe they didn't show it tonight, but he was incredibly intense on the sidelines tonight. Not like yelling and screaming, just intense. Just getting on – there was one play, Vince is like, he won't get off the field. Like he's just standing like there's no get back coach at Notre Dame.
He did
Apparently,
not leave he did not stop harassing the ref until they took that call to review on Pine, and it was great to see that he was standing in his ground. He took the penalties.
Yeah.
He was still getting mad at him after taking the sideline warning.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like he kind of negated Dabo's influence because you guys remember in 2020, whenever Dabo felt like they missed a call, he didn't go yell at the refs and then they'd make that call the next play.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like they were kind of a little bit like, I don't want to even mess with this guy right now. That was a very interesting performance. But to your point, Sean, earlier, the team took that personality on. That's how the team played tonight. They played with that kind of FU.
Agreed.
We're Notre Dame. And Sean, you talked about it. It was after the Syracuse. I think it was the Syracuse game. You talked about it. We saw the team take on Marcus Freeman's personality, and tonight was the culmination of that. And my thought is, if this team can learn how to throw the football, who stops this offense?
Right.
Man. Yo, because it's the worst type of offense to have to face.
Yeah.
As a defense, because it takes you, and you guys break down film way more than I do. But, you have your system, you have your things that you love to call and you want to put your guys in. But when a team can just physically just manhandle you, none of that matters. Like, you can blitz, you're going to run into me. Like, you're running into this big body. And when you run into me, I'm winning. Yeah. So scheme away. And I thought in the second half, they tried to bring their linebackers on fires down the middle. Yeah. They tried to help out the D-line, and Notre Dame would just hold them up, give their running backs. Jesse's pointed it out. They went duo. Yeah. They gave options to the running backs. Jason Garrett I'm shocked I'm going to say this. Jason Garrett did a really good job pointing out how Tommy all night went against his tendencies. He would show something, and Clemson would expect what they had seen on film, and they would run it a totally different way, or he would bring motion off of it to give some type of misdirection. And Clemson was just messed up. They were messed up physically. Their eyes were messed up, and they just were worn out.
Yeah,
in every way defensively. Like, Brian, before you came, it was like the middle of the fourth quarter, like 9 minutes left, and Dabo looks down at his assistants and says, "We have to do something different." And I'm like, dude,
it won't matter, baby. It won't.
That's awesome.
There's nothing you can do. There's nothing to go to in your playbook. Nothing.
Vince, did you talk to them about the play calls, the play callers, the signalers?
No, I did not bring that up.
They were sending the signalers into the tent after certain series to change jerseys.
Like the defensive signalers were wearing 3 different color polo shirts, right?
Yeah.
And they were
so
signaling
that Clemson
in.
couldn't get a read on who was hot, who was live.
They would send them into the medical tent, and you could see, because there's a little slit where you can see into the medical tent. And so with your binocular, you can see them changing shirts. They kind of thought of everything, which you can call that ticky-tack or, whatever, but they thought of everything.
I mean, for a team with a reputation of stealing signs.
Sure.
I had somebody after the game text me. He's like, "It's amazing what you can do to that defense when they can't steal your signs and know what you're going to do based off formation."
Yeah.
And that's what I thought. Tom Reese did a great job tonight of really mixing up, like they did a great job sealing the edge tonight, formationally and from a blocking standpoint. Like Clemson, and Ryan, you and I talked about this during they're like to bring those edge fires, and they did a great job. I mean, Joe Walton, Blake Fisher just whooped the Clemson ends. The pass pro wasn't great early. They were giving up a lot of ground. The backs had a couple. Audric Estime had a miss on a stunt. But run game wise, I mean, they did a great job on the edge. They did a great job formationally. And I loved, I still would like to see a little bit more outside run. But tonight we saw inside zone being run. Chris Tyrese, I think first carry was inside zone. And what did he do? Cuts it back for 10 yards. Right? Then they bring Audric in, and he's running duo. And then they went to inside zone with him. The bounces, what do we say for a season? This has a chance to be one of the 5 best running back rooms in the country. Name me a team that's got a better running back,
like top to bottom
when these guys
Absolutely.
are playing right now.
Right.
You have a different 100-yard rusher every week.
Yeah, it's got to be so demoralizing for Clemson when you're getting dominated, and then it's a new running back is coming in with fresh legs. It's like, all right, here we go again. You know, they're not getting a breather; they're still getting dominated, and you're rolling in a back. You got two backs going over 100 yards. It's like hockey, just rotating in these fresh legs and letting them attack. It had to be demoralizing for Clemson.
Well, Jesse, you played linebacker in high school. You're a pretty good linebacker in high school. I mean, how do you, and they're all three different. That's the thing, is like they're all three different kids, but they all ran with authority. Like, I mean, what do you do when you're a linebacker? And that's happening.
It's not fun, especially when you're tired and you see a big body Estime coming downhill and you know he's not making any moves. He's running you straight over. And then, Diggs is showing the elusiveness in the hole, but still showing that physicality this week. That was the biggest difference in Diggs's run game this week and why he was so successful is he ran more like Estime. He's
Jesse,
better.
Real quick, there were 4 times that I looked over Vince and said, "Was that Diggs or Estime?"
That's
because I couldn't tell.
Yeah, I think Vince said the same thing earlier on. It's like who was who? It's like he took a playbook or play out of his playbook this week and was just running people over, and it's demoralizing as a linebacker, and especially they only completed like 9 passes or whatever it was, so you knew it was coming, and it was still just a shot to the chin every time.
Unbelievable. I think this is a great comment right here from Matthew Rugg. So the fact that we didn't turn into a dumpster fire after the Stanford loss is Freeman's biggest accomplishment. I'll say this. Not only did they not turn into a dumpster fire, fellas, but they have not been the same team since they lost to Stanford. Right, this has been a complete – if you only watched Notre Dame from post-Stanford on, so if like you were out of the country – and you didn't come back till the Monday after Stanford, and all you knew of this Notre Dame team from here until then, you'd say this team can play with just about anybody.
Yes.
I mean,
it's a top 10 team.
It was
like they're playing like a top 10
There's
team.
no question.
Who has more quality wins than Notre Dame this season? Like honestly though, like the ranked opponents, and then it's like you have some of the best quality wins, but then you turn around and have some of the worst quality losses, and that's what's so frustrating about the season.
It's not a quality loss. It's not a quality loss.
Sorry, yeah.
I would say
low quality loss.
There's only one team, in my opinion, that Georgia has the 2 best wins of the year. Period.
Oregon and Tennessee.
And they blew both of them out. That's the crazy thing. They weren't even close.
Well, Sean, neither were none of Notre Dame's big wins.
Yeah, so I would say Notre Dame is probably right behind Georgia.
And Notre Dame has
big win.
2 of them now because Syracuse is going to fall out of the top 25.
Because they lost. Yeah.
But part of the reason they fell out of the top 25 is because they lost. Because
Notre Dame beat the crap out of them. Yeah.
But like Notre Dame's 3 biggest wins this year were not competitive. Like, I mean, honestly, they were not competitive. Just like they should get the ACC championship trophy right now. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, because Clemson and North Carolina are going to play for the ACC championship.
Yeah.
And Notre Dame beat the crap out of both of them. I mean, they just did. So, but yeah, I think that's the thing that's impressive, Sean, is you and I did a show the Tuesday after Stanford. And the thing we said was if Marcus Freeman's going to fail, he needs to fail doing it his way.
Yep.
And we felt like he was trying to be that coach's coach and get along with there and let you own the room. And I don't know what he said or did specifically, but this team is coached differently now. This team plays differently now. There's an edge. People are talking about Isaiah Foskey and Michael Mayer just need to quit the team and just get ready for the NFL draft for different reasons. Mayer because he had nothing else to prove. Foskey because it looked like he checked out against Stanford. And in the last 3 games, has anybody blocked Isaiah Foskey yet in a key moment? Like, I mean, it's been – and the linebackers, like the switch just went on after the Stanford game. And you're like, oh, man. And did you guys notice how much press they were playing tonight? They pretty much just said, you can't complete passes down the field on Benjamin Morrison and Cam Hart.
Yep.
You can't. Like, think about that, guys. Like, we haven't seen that since 2018. And even 2018, they didn't have Julian Love playing press coverage in games like this.
No, he was
it was impressive. That was impressive. That was a fun win.
Just to point out what you were talking about, I think it was like 3 minutes left in the game. Notre Dame had gotten the ball back. No, it might have been less time than that. And they called timeout, and Tommy had come down to the field. And I think it was like a minute something left. And Clemson calls timeout. And you could tell Marcus was just ticked off. He was just ticked off. And you see McNulty coming down.
Jared Parker
coming down. And he's like screaming, "That's bull, that's bull."
Yeah.
And Marcus just puts his hand up like, "I got this." And he looks at Tom and he's like, whatever he mouths, like, keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going. And I was like, yo, that's what I talked about. Like, I need this program to have a level of disrespect for their opponent.
Yes.
Like
a healthy disrespect.
A healthy disrespect for their opponents. Like, dude, we respect you. That's what drives our preparation. But when we come on this field, we're coming on this field to kick your tail. Here, that's it. That's it.
Physically.
And we're not stopping until we take the last knee and the clock runs out. And it was almost like they felt like the game was over, and Dabo calls that last timeout, and Marcus was heated. Like, the game is over. Like, what are you doing? Pour it on him. Get another first down.
Run it up. Leave no doubt.
Leave no doubt. And Estimate gets that last first down. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
This is an incredible night, man. This might be like top 5, one of my best Notre Dame.
And you know, Angela was down there taking shots, by the way, and she said it. I mean, she shot a lot of games at Notre Dame. I mean, she not only she shot, but like she was doing video up top in 2015. Vince and I were talking about that. So I mean, she's been outside in environments at this stadium for years. That's my wife, Angela. And she was like, "This is by far the loudest I've ever seen." And my parents were there. Y'all are gonna love this. I talked to my mom and dad. They were there. She said that my dad was like, nobody ever sat down. Stood up the whole game.
That's dope.
Like, Vince, you had a buddy text you that same thing. Like, they said they stood up the whole game.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? It's like there was no email that went out. I was like, that's what happens when you play good teams at home. If you want the crowd to be into it, stop playing UNLV and Marshall and, you know, Bowling Green every home game. You know what I mean? Like, play somebody good. You know, cool to play Marshall, cool to play UNLV. Just don't play both in the same year, you know. But the crowd was there tonight, man.
Well, you saying people won't be standing up for Tennessee State next year?
No, the Tennessee State fans might be, you know, but I don't think anybody else will. I hope so. I mean, it'd be cool if the crowd kind of, because like Sean, don't you think somebody made a great point at the tailgate tonight? They're like, look, and they didn't say it quite like this, but I'm gonna say it kind of how I think it applies. It's sort of like the crowd takes on the identity of the team. And the point that he made was these were not fun teams to watch in the past. Like, yeah, they were good, but they weren't necessarily really fun teams to watch. You know, they didn't have that. They didn't play with the swagger in recent years. I mean, they win, but there was just this business-like approach. You know, you go back and watch some of the games in the late 80s or 90s, and that crowd was crazy. That part is the good games, but like that, the crowd back then took on the identity of the team. You know, when your team, when your team plays with swagger, don't you kind of walk and talk when you're with other fans with that same swagger, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, and that team set the tone, the tempo immediately. Like DJ's first pass, Vince looks at me and goes, he wanted no part of that. Like, they didn't even get to him, but he just saw the blitz. And he saw Maris and JD coming at him, and he's on his back foot just getting rid of it quick.
Yep.
And Ryan, you and I talked about that in the game.
Yeah.
Look, get after him, get him. And what did we say? We didn't say hit him, sack him. We said get in his head.
Rattle him.
Get in his head.
Mm-hmm.
And it happened from series numero uno. It happened. He was shook early. Clemson's entire team was shook early. They were not ready for that physicality. I do not think they were. I do not think they were ready for that.
I think that's what I was going to ask you guys. It seemed like Jesse made this point early. They just constantly went to the outside. And Vince, you pointed out, you know, if they watched Notre Dame this season, they saw teams were able to take advantage of Notre Dame to the outside. But this was probably Notre Dame's best tackling game all year. Like, they were solid tackling all night. And then when they couldn't go to the outside and make hay, there was nothing else. Because, like, if you want to play into Notre Dame's defensive line and try to run right at them,
good luck with that.
Now you're putting DJ in 2nd and 8, 3rd and 6. Now you're playing into Al Golden's hands. So now he can bring these different fires, these different blitzes. And they were playing great coverage. Tariq had his man. Benji had his man. Cam Hart was balling up. Look, it was literally like, even though they had an extra week to prepare, they had no clue just how physical. It's one thing to look at the stats and look at the film and say, like, oh man, they're a physical team, right? Because we heard Dino Baber say it. Like, yo, they line up at these 3 backs and there's nothing you can do. And that's what he said. Then Dabo comes out on Tuesday and he's like, man, you know, they got a tight end. That's an NFL tight end. And this offensive line is tough. And these running backs are tough. It's going to be a tough assignment. Yeah, it's one thing to say it and watch it. It's a whole nother thing to feel it. It's like the level of, I don't think, how would you rate this offensive line as far as not talent, but the way they're playing right now? Like, in comparison to other offensive lines at Notre Dame. They just seem to be playing at such a high level right now of execution and just physicality that it's like, it's fun to watch, man. It's
if you really just take the last 5 games, Sean, and forget what happened before North Carolina, right? Because they were a different team first 3 games. They were.
Yeah.
I'll say this: if this team, if they played like, if the offensive line played like this all year, so if they play like this all year, this team's at 9-0 right now. You know, like, fact, they're 9-0 right now. But I'll say this, Sean: the only line I've seen better than this line in the last 15 years is the 2017 line. Like, for a stretch, like the stretch from even from BC to Wake Forest, that line was filthy, right? Because that's the only other line I've seen since Lou Holtz was coach that could say, you know what's coming, we know what's coming, the people in the stands know what's coming, the people videoing the game know what's coming, the people at home just told me, y'all know what's coming, and there's not a dang thing you can do about it.
But that's been this O-line to this game and last week.
That team had the best guard I've ever seen in college football.
That's true. Yeah.
Right?
That's fair.
You know, like, that team had 2 top 10 NFL draft picks on it. You know what I mean? Like, that team had a guy in Sam Mustipher who went undrafted, but doesn't he start for the Chicago Bears right now? Right? Yeah, Alex Bars.
Up until like 2 weeks ago, yes.
Okay. Alex Bars would be there if he didn't destroy his knee the next year.
Right. Yeah.
Right. You know, and by the way, I think Tommy Kramer and Robert Hainsey are both Tommy Kramer and Robert Hainsey are both starters in the NFL right now, right? I know Hainsey is. Is Kramer starting for the Lions still? He did last year. You know, and you just look at it and say
the Lions. I don't know.
But that's what made that team different, though, guys, is they knew that, you know, you were going to do this and we are going to do this, and there's nothing you can do about it. But here's the difference. That year, Notre Dame's offensive line played a great defensive line against Georgia, and they played a pretty darn good defensive line in Miami, and they weren't able to dominate that way. The NC State game they did, but this is the game where you looked at it and said, this is a really talented offensive line or defensive line. Like, Ryan's talked about this, Ryan. If the medicals check out, Brescia and Miles Murphy are both first-round picks, right? KJ Henry's what? Late day 2, early day 3, right?
Day 3, yeah.
You know, Rook's a guy that could Ryan talked about, if Rook comes out, he might get drafted. Justin Maskell could probably make an NFL team. And they pushed him around like they were Syracuse's undersized guys. I thought they were better this week than they were last week. So we had another question answered tonight. The issues before this game were not about home versus away. It's about this team playing to the quality of the competition that they play.
Yeah.
And that's encouraging because that was what Brian Kelly could never figure out at Notre Dame. He clearly did it tonight at LSU, but he couldn't figure it out at Notre Dame was how to match the intensity of the great teams. It's a lot easier to figure out how to beat Marshall and Stanford moving forward than it is to do what they've done recently. That's a great sign. It's a great sign.
Absolutely.
Hey, Ryan, guys, let's get into this. Yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
I was just going to say one point that we made early in the show is, and I look forward to watching the film on this, but I felt like this was a game where Blake Fisher became a man in this football game. I just kept seeing him I felt like every big run, it was like him just collapsing someone. I can't wait to watch the film. Yeah.
I can't wait to rewatch.
We might have all five of us on the Upon Further review to tomorrow night, folks. I'm just letting y'all know right now. Jesse's just going to randomly show up like, hey, I want to do the Upon Further review tonight. By the way, Jesse, man, it's been great having you on this show tonight, man. We really appreciate it. I can't tell you how many people I've had email me and text me. And I mean, I get it about Ryan. I've been getting it about Sean all the time, about Vince, but I can't tell you how many times the last couple months I've had people say, hey, Jesse does a great job. He does an awesome job. So you've been a great addition to the team, man, and we appreciate it very, very much. And that's why I told your dad tonight. I said, look, I don't plan on being on the show tonight because our internet's out. I said, I'm not even worried about it because I feel like Jesse's going to do a great job. So I appreciate it very, very much.
I appreciate when we found out internet was me.
Yeah. Well, when I found out the internet was working, I was like,
on a game like this too.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm a little ticked about that. I'm like, this son of, you know what? Didn't have to be there for Marshall and Stanford. But no, you did a great job. But guys, let's we got a ton of super chats.
Yes, we do.
We'll be able to talk about a lot of this stuff again as we do super chats. So are you guys good with us just starting to roll through those? Is there anything else you guys want to add before we get started? Thanks, Mom. My mom and dad are here. My grandma's here. My wife, my dogs. My mom just bought me a Mountain Dew.
That was
We're like partying up at the Driscoll household tonight.
That was like some Step Brothers stuff, man. Mom, meatloaf.
That wasn't, dude. If you're going to say that, you got to at least get it right. That was Wedding Crashers.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, Will Ferrell.
Yeah, it was.
Now.
It's Wedding Crashers.
Get your dumb Will Ferrell characters right, okay?
It's fine.
Meatloaf. Yeah.
Oh, it's great.
Something with the drum set then, all right?
Yes.
We're good.
Different movie.
That's Step Brothers. That's Step Brothers.
Yes.
Step Brothers.
Wedding Crashers.
I know. I got it. Will Ferrell. Yes.
What was his name?
Chaz Reinhold.
Chaz Reinhold, that's right. And then he was, and he was with Chaz Michael.
The Godfather of Wedding Crashing.
Stupid skating movies. Yeah. Let's get to, you guys want to add anything before we get to the super chats? You guys
I know all the movie trivia. That's all I want to put in the chat. So
Ryan's got it. He's got it. Sean, you good?
Man, I'm happy, man. I'm happy.
Yeah, at this point, we can do whatever. I mean, yeah.
But think about where we were 3 weeks ago. Like, Sean, you text me. He's like, dude, I don't even want to do the show tonight. Like, I'm sick of saying the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Because, I mean, we were just so frustrated because the team just didn't show the improvement.
Yeah.
And it's like they went like this to boom, like nothing. I mean, it's been like, wow. Like, this changed fast.
I'm in such a good mood. One of my children is still awake. Okay.
Wow.
So over there eating popcorn and watching YouTube videos, and I don't care. My father of the year trophy is
I'm being a bad parent tonight, and I don't even care.
I don't care.
I'm just happy my daughter's not awake, Vince.
I'm not even in my own house, and she's with me. So there you go.
That's awesome. Yeah. Oh, I know who's with you tonight.
Yeah,
let's jump into these, and we thank everybody for the super chats tonight. Christopher Galloway with super chat. As an old offensive lineman, I love seeing the Irish Hogs getting to eat. O-line should get the MVP of the game. And can we say something else? To all those people talking about Harry Heastan and he's this and he's that after the first couple games, I'm going to be that guy tonight. This is why you brought him back.
Yeah.
Because this is what you get.
Yes.
Dominance.
Yep.
Absolute
dominance.
And here's the thing. You watch that film. This was O-line clinic tape tonight, fellas.
Yep.
Moving your feet. And here's the thing, Ryan, you had said this in the show the other day. Clemson's going to get theirs. They're going to get their plays. And they had a couple plays tonight, but there were so many times tonight where they came off and they actually beat the Notre Dame blocker off the ball and kind of got in their chest, and they would recover and push back. That didn't happen in the past. Like, they'd cover and then just escape and, block, destruct, and get to the football. But the timing of the blocking, the push they got, I mean, they were just getting 4 or 5 yards, and the running backs were just following them, just get in the hole and follow them, man. And I can't tell you how, as a running back, when the line's doing that, it's so much easier to play with confidence.
Yeah.
Just like, dude, I'm just going to go do my thing because these guys that's one heck of a cup, Jesse. These guys are getting after it. That was a monster cup. I'm digging that. But, man, O-line should get MVP of the game. I mean, how do you not, right?
Yeah.
And I'm almost like, dude, I gave him the player of the game last week. I'm like, shoot, I don't want to give him the player of the game this week. But I'll tell you something right now, though. Let's not – like, the O-line played great, but there's a few times where Clemson brought numbers, and Audric and Logan are making dudes miss in the backfield.
Or running them over
free
completely.
Or running them over.
I mean, literally running them over.
Yeah. Did you guys talk about the dynamic of Will Shipley? Like, Notre Dame, Will Shipley's a heck of a back, right?
Absolutely.
And everybody's saying, Will Shipley. You put Will Shipley behind this offensive line tonight, and he does pretty darn good as well.
Right, and that's what he's thinking on the plane ride home.
This is a lesson of recruiting. Yeah, you miss out on a guy, and it stinks. You missed out on a guy that was your top back. He's a heck of a player. But how do you rebound? Notre Dame missed out on Shipley, and what did they rebound with?
Estime.
Logan Diggs first.
Okay.
Then Audric Estime second. And it's like, we were asked today, would you want Will Shipley on this depth chart? Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Would you trade him for your 2 that you got? Heck to the no, man. That's not happening. Like, no. Because like Jesse said, when I can just keep because there was a big difference. Remember the dude on our chat that said that Phil Maffa was better than Will Shipley? But like
seriously?
But the thing is, when you take Will Shipley out of the game, there's a huge drop-off. And Phil Moffa's a nice number 2 back, but there's a big drop-off.
Sure.
Tonight, you saw Chris Tyree. Like, imagine what happens when Ryan texted me, like, is that Chris Tyree in space? But he had 2 big plays tonight. He had the cut back. I mean, even your number 3 back did some things. Like, Chris Tyree tonight, as the number 3 back, had 52 yards of total offense tonight, guys.
Yep.
Your 3rd back had 52 yards of total offense tonight.
Correct.
And when you can just keep –
yeah.
That
means you had over 250 yards of total offense from your running backs. You
keep rotating your backs in, and it just doesn't matter who you put in. You just can't stop it. So, yeah, the O-line played great, but let's not act like – no one's acting like that. I mean, I'm sure everybody – but let's not also forget that these running backs played tremendous. They weren't just okay dudes running behind an elite offensive line.
Right.
This is the best Notre Dame backfield I've seen in a long time. A long time.
Yep.
D-win 5. Vince has to wear white every game from here on out. And you know what else, Vince? Is every home game. You and I got to go out to the outside to watch. So tonight, Vince and I did something a little bit different. We wanted to hear how the crowd was going to be. So we went outside for the Here Come the Irish when they come out of the tunnel. And – man, it was cold because we were above the stadium, and so all the wind was just hitting us in the face, man.
I got blown off of the 9th floor.
I had to grab my hat immediately when I walked outside, or I was going to lose it. And I might have died because I probably would have gone chasing after and dove over the top of the 9th floor to try to catch it. But we were there when they came out and the crowd was going crazy, and then they were actually louder. Here's where I knew this was going to be a good night because Vince and I were like, that was okay. The crowd was okay when Notre Dame came out, but when Clemson came out. The Notre Dame fans went they booed Clemson louder than they cheered Notre Dame. And it's okay, that the crowd is mentally in it tonight.
Yes.
They are mentally here tonight because they went after Clemson. And there was a lot of orange, but it wasn't
as much as I
thought it was going to be.
It was not as much as I anticipated at all. It made up maybe 10%, I guess, of the whole stadium. And obviously they were, in their normal spot, and it was just peppered throughout, some orange or whatever, but it wasn't even close to what it was when Georgia was in town. It wasn't anywhere near what it was when Nebraska was in town in 2000.
How about Vince? Were you at the Cincinnati game?
I was
last year. How
they were?
I
don't know. You know what? For Cincinnati, I don't feel like it was the numbers, but I feel like it was the sound. They were just
because they were winning. They outplayed Notre Dame from start.
I get that, but they were. I was so loud. Go ahead.
That's right. Ryan, you were there.
I was unfortunately at the Cincinnati game last year as well. Yes, it was.
Well, dude, Ryan, you're no longer a jinx because you were at the Syracuse game. So
I know,
You're just not allowed back in South Bend. So
that's fine. That's all right. That's cool. I'll be down in Maryland next week for the Navy game, so we're all good. We're all good there.
You?
I think we're gonna go down for the day. Yeah,
okay.
Planning on it.
So you're gonna be in the stands, or did you want me to get a?
I'll probably just in the stands. I just in the stands. Yeah,
you're 1-0. You're 1-0 in the press box, man.
Just
Charlie Weiss's last belt loop with a huge super chat. Thank you, Charlie. You appreciate you, buddy. Great win by the Irish. Want to say love the Morrison breakout party. Dude will be an NFL stud one day. I'm starting to see the directions Freeman wants his team. They get a stud QB, national championships there. Do you see Keon rethinking? Number 3, I hope so. I mean, that's my first call when I get back in the locker room. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah,
it is. I doubt it happens, but I think number 1 is this is why you don't worry about recruiting rankings. We tried to tell people last year, like Ryan and I talked about it, Vince and I talked about it, Sean and I talked about it. We kept watching this kid's film saying, what am I missing? I would text Notre Dame coaches and be like, what am I missing here? Why is this kid not a top 100 player? What am I missing? Why is Irish Breakdown the only people that rank him as a top 100 player? I didn't understand it, but we're all seeing it now. Because it's not like he's been playing like trash all year and all of a sudden he had a great night tonight. Like this is kind of how he's been for most of the year. But I think number 2 is the big one, fellas, is I'm starting to see the direction Freeman wants his team. And it's not just the physicality, it's the way they were physical with sort of that, again, that FU, we're Notre Dame. We don't give 2 rips about who you are. This is our house. You're about to catch one tonight. And just, I'm sorry. It's like, we're talking about movie quotes. Sean, it was like the scene from Harlem Nights. Don't take this ass whooping personally.
Good call.
That's exactly what the night was. If y'all don't know, if you've never seen Harlem Nights, you got to check it out. But it was one of the greatest scenes. When it's a boxing scene, it's great. It's great. Jesse, we lost you for a second there, man. Glad to have you back. David Carpenter with a super chat, 35-20. What a great win. 2 things. 1, was this the most dominant win over a good team in the last 20 years? Felt like it. I guess it would depend on how you define good. I still felt like the USC game was even more dominant, but this is a much better team than that USC team.
That's the difference. Yeah, that's the difference.
That USC defense wasn't very good.
Right.
But if you want to talk, if you were to say, David, if you were to say just good team meaning top 20, I'd still say probably 2017 USC. If you want to get real good, like top 10, I honestly, I'd have to think back. It's been a while. I'd have to go back and do the Rolodex, but we certainly didn't get one in the last 15 years. I'd have to go back to the Rolodex, the mental Rolodex to think of one, guys. Can you think of one where they played a top 10 team and did this?
No.
Just physically destroyed them? I mean, you'd have to go back to the Lou Holtz era.
Not since I've been covering the team, and that was in 04,
Yeah. I mean, they've had big wins. Ty beat Michigan that one year, but no, nothing like this. Nothing.
But yeah, somebody said Oklahoma, but
they didn't dominate
that game.
Right. It was 13-13 in the fourth quarter. Yeah, Jesse, you're right. They had tied the game up 13-13. That was a much closer game than 31-13. They poured it on late. You're right, Jesse.
This was very different because I forget if it was 14-0 or 21-0 at the time. But I would be completely lying if I didn't say I didn't have a sneaking feeling I think Notre Dame's going to kind of let a couple in here and it's going to kind of be a squeaker win. That didn't happen.
Did we not say the same thing in the press box? Mm-hmm. We're they're going to let them go down and score and it's going to end up being 28-21. Right. I said that thing and Vince will agree. And it's not going to look on paper like it was the blowout that it was. And then they scored 35. They never let up. It was beautiful. Never let up. Yeah. Never let up. And man, did you, Vince? Did you see the burst that Benjamin Morrison showed on that interception? Though,
he outran Shipley. P.S.
Oh, I mean, it was
just saying, boy, just saying.
John A1 with a super chat. Thank you, John. Teams seeing this game are saying, "Boy, I hope Notre Dame never gets a top tier quarterback." I hope certain recruits not in South Bend were watching the big game tonight. I'm gonna tell you something right now. CJ Carr is like, "Yep, I want to play with that." Because, if you're a kid like CJ Carr, you're thinking, because CJ's a confident kid. He better be anyway. I don't want a quarterback that's not confident. And you watch CJ play, he plays confident.
Right.
But if you're a big-time quarterback, you got to be watching this game thinking they got that receiving core coming in next year. They get dudes at tight end. I get to play with that group of running backs and that offensive line. Like, my job's going to be pretty flippin' easy. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I mean, goodness gracious.
I mean, because CJ was just chilling in the visitor section with Jaden Greathouse and Braylon James, and like, yeah, man, yeah, exactly,
yeah. Like, dude, you put us with that with what's going on in the trenches right there.
Yeah.
Whew.
Mm-hmm.
David Hess with a super chat. David says, nice to see Irish fans not sell all the tickets to Clemson fans and bring the energy onward Notre Dame. Yeah.
Yeah. I was worried as I was approaching the stadium, though.
Yeah, there's a lot, and people were
texting. A lot of orange,
the Clemson fans were in last night and everywhere.
And they were almost exclusively Clemson fans at Eddy Street Commons, kind of the group of restaurants just south of campus. And that's the way I kind of drove in. I was like, oh, this is bad.
And to all the Notre Dame fans that sold their tickets to Clemson people, you didn't get to watch this. So, you. All right. Connor Grant with a super chat. Is Notre Dame this good or Clemson not as good as hyped? I knew this was going to come.
Of course it was.
Clemson is who we said they were coming in. This is not 2018 Clemson.
No.
This is not 2016 Clemson. This is still a very good football team. Again, folks, they had 3 top 25 wins coming into tonight. And Notre Dame.
They had the most of any team in the country.
In this, we said this during the week too, guys, right? If they play again next Saturday, does Notre Dame win this way? Probably not. You know, I mean, maybe. But just tonight in this game, this was who Notre Dame is supposed to be, man.
Yeah.
You know, but like, Ryan, I loved your response to Joe. Like, or Notre Dame's just really, a lot better than people think.
We can never give a team credit, Brian. We just have to, we live in a world where on Twitter we just dunk on people instead of giving other people credit.
What did we say in the this Vince, you and I talked about this during the game or before the game, and Sean, I think you and I talked about this, and then Ryan, I think you and I talked about this on a show.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't a great matchup for Clemson.
No.
Right? Like, because Notre Dame matches up pretty well against Clemson, unlike they did in the past.
Right.
Right. And look, Clemson just
it was
this kind of physicality.
It was good on good as far as Notre Dame's run game versus Clemson's run defense, and Notre Dame got the best of them, as far as that matchup is concerned. So it was like strength on strength. And so that's why Notre Dame matched up well. And then when you reverse it and you look at Notre Dame's defense versus Clemson offense, I mean, and I said it all week, if they come at it with the game plan that they had in the first half of Syracuse and they do that for the whole game, they're going to have success. That's essentially what happened. I mean, they kept putting pressure on the quarterback. They kept bringing stunts from all over the place. I mean, that's essentially what they did, and it was successful. Clemson didn't have a clue what to do offensively.
It was also a bad matchup because they just don't have the wide receivers to challenge the secondary for Notre Dame right now either. It is just – I feel like everything got super condensed. Even when they're trying to get the ball outside, it's still getting condensed.
Yeah.
Like, it's just
they had a decent group of receivers. That a lot of teams would take that room, but they don't have that alpha. And Sean and I talked about that in the pregame show. There's no alpha for Clemson's wide receiver room. So there's nobody that you're really worried about. You could just play good defense and be fine.
And there's a lot of teams that can't stop that because they don't have Cam Hart and Benjamin Morrison and guys like that. That's the other thing too. And I, obviously that certainly helps. That certainly helps. Next, Paul Church with a super sticker. Thank you, Paul, very, very, very much. Mackenzie Kelly. I think I might have I met Mackenzie, Vince. Mackenzie was at the tailgate today.
Okay.
Mackenzie said the win was our dessert since the wind blew the IB brownies away. Yeah, my mom was upset. One of the trays with the candies got blown off, but she had extras. Don't worry. But yeah, we had a great time at the tailgate tonight, by the way. There's so many cool people there. It was a lot of fun. And I can't tell how many times, is Ryan coming? Is Sean coming? Sean, I told them that you have to figure out what you did to piss off God, because every time you're about to come to a big game, something happens and you can't come. So I don't know what it is. I know what it is, man.
Like, dude, I caught a fever. What was that? No, it was like the day after I did the show with Ryan.
Yeah. It was Tuesday night. You were like, man, I'm not feeling good. Because I had 2 tickets for you and everything. and then you had to hit before Ohio State, and so yeah. My mom said she thinks it's her. She thinks it's you don't want to eat her food, so she's so offended.
Tell them no. It has nothing to do with that. Absolutely.
Hey, the Clemson win was awesome.
If there's any game that I wanted to go to, it was tonight.
Yes.
Yeah. Look, the win over Clemson was great, but meeting Miss Mama Driscoll was the highlight for me.
She hooked up the spread, man. You had that pulled pork, man. That was legit.
Just fantastic.
That was legit. Kurt D.A. Anderson Fitness. Go Irish. Go Marcus Freeman. Yeah, it's nice watching a game where you actually like the head coach as a human being.
It's different.
Josh Phillips, super chat. Morrison MVP. Got Ryan on that one. D, special teams. RB says. And Brian Mason, good Lord. Like, that dude is killing it.
There's a few coaches that.
Even little things. Like Vince and I talked about this. Where did Brandon Joseph rank in punt return average coming to this game? It's like he was like top. He's been like top 30 at different times throughout the year. I'm gonna go find where he is on punt returns this year. He's 20th, right? 9.9 per. That's pretty good. But if you look at the yards he has saved from fielding punts that what they would let roll in the past. Now, part of that's Brandon Joseph, but part of that is he's being coached to do that.
Yes.
Right. Like, don't let that thing roll. Place yourself, brace yourself, make the catch, then go. He has saved hundreds of yards this year of not just what you gain. I mean, gain 5-10 yards, but it's also saving 15.
It's those hidden yardage, you know.
Yes. That's whereas then John Sott is pinning them inside the 10 the whole game.
I was gonna say that was the important thing to me was Clemson started at their 6, the 7, the 13, like. Defense played well, but when you're backed up like that and you're not doing anything well, that helps so much. And just being able to control that field like that. And I thought that was a big point tonight. You know, they blocked the punts and stuff, but Clemson started deep in their own territory a lot tonight. Couldn't get anything momentum going wise.
Well, here's something else, Jesse. Do you have a play-by-play in front of you?
I wrote down every play. Yeah.
How many times did Clemson start? How many times did Clemson start inside their 20? Because, like, even on, like, the first drive of the game, like, Vince, you and I are talking about this. The first drive of the game, Clemson gets the ball, and they are at their own – where was it at? It was – I'm trying to remember where they were on that first drive. But they got the ball, and let me find it here. Because Notre Dame blocked the first punt, right? First punt of the game, correct?
Yep.
So Notre Dame gets the ball. They punt it. Clemson's at the 25, right?
Correct.
And then, you know, you block the punt and you get in a 3rd and 22 situation, right? So you back them up and then, you know, they're kind of punting from their own territory. And then there was the other time they're constantly like they were calling plays tonight. The point is they were calling plays on 3rd and longs where they weren't trying to get the first down. They were trying to get out of the end zone to not have to punt out of their own end zone against Notre Dame's punt team.
Right.
I mean, you could see – I mean, it's 3rd and 22. They're running a tight end slide route. Are they thinking Davis Allen is going to catch that and run for 20 yards? No. They're thinking we need to give ourselves room to punt because you can't shorten your punt distance with Notre Dame. And, I mean, that's where there's nothing in the stat sheet that shows that. But to Jesse's point, when you're pinning them that far back, number one, you're not going to consistently move the ball 90+ yards on Notre Dame defense. Did you figure out how many it was, Jesse? Were you able to count how many times they started inside the 20?
About 6 or 7 is where I got.
I mean, when your defense is Notre Dame's defense, you're just not going to consistently move the ball over 80 yards on them, guys. You're just not.
Right.
And then when you've got
the 2 where they were on the 20 and then the 21. So it's like,
yeah, you're right there.
Yeah.
But Vince, when you're convincing a team that because of our special teams, you're having to make play calls to not have to be pinned, you know, to get out of that because you know you're going to be hard to beat in that situation, fellas.
No doubt.
I'm going to super chat from Spark5219. And he says, this is the best I've seen the Irish play a complete game against a ranked team since the Lou Holtz era. Run the ball down your throat and play dominant defense. And the other thing is Lou's teams played really good special teams. Played really good special teams. And this team is playing really good special teams. Outside of the field goal kicker, I mean, again, there's no much you can do about that. But
no, it was a bad kick. It was a terrible kick. It was a side winding, and you can't even blame the wind on that. It was just a bad kick. But no, this is the first time in a long time that I get excited about special teams. Like when they're on the field, I get excited about special teams. It's weird.
Right. And a completely different thing too. Cause like when we were kids, Sean, we would get excited for special teams. She was like, oh, they got to kick it to Ricky or Rocket. Like this is going to be fun. I've never watched the special teams. You're like, I wonder if they're going to block this one. I wonder if they're going to block this one. Like you you feel like they're about to block every single kick. And Sean, haven't you and I been begging for this for years with the previous special teams coach? Like if you can't return, at least try and heat them up.
Yeah. Right.
You know, like
look, I didn't think they would be able to. I thought with the extra week of preparation, that's the one thing Clemson would focus on. Like, look, we cannot allow them to block a punt.
Right. First punt.
Right.
And the first punt, they block it. And then they tip another one, later on in the game.
Yeah.
It was literally almost like Clemson was unprepared.
Yeah.
Can we,
after the bye week,
I'm going to say something else, though. They didn't do what they normally do, though. That's the thing is they don't do the same. Notre Dame doesn't do the same thing every game. Like they mix it up. Like there's some weeks they bring edge pressure. Some weeks they bring overload pressures. This week they went kind of like right up the middle. And did any of you, Ryan, did you break down any special teams for Clemson coming into this game? Did they always have Rook and I want to know if like they always had Rook and Miles Murphy as personal protectors, or if they just did that for this game.
I can check.
I'm very curious about that.
I'm not sure. I can check into it though for sure.
Yeah, I'd be very curious about that because I noticed that. I'm sorry, y'all. I don't break down special teams. I'm sorry. I probably should, but I don't. I have enough. You know what I mean? But Vince is looking.
Vince loves it, so he can do.
Okay, Vince. How about you start watching special teams now? You're our special teams coordinator for our breakdown.
I got a kid who plays special teams. I'll make him do it.
There you go. Yeah. But Angela, here's a photo that Angela took tonight that I just thinking just kind of.
Is this the Marcus Freeman one?
Yeah.
Freaking
he
great.
was like the first dude down. So just my wife is side by side to him. Photographers are not allowed to go past the 18-yard line. Right. So this is how far down Marcus Freeman ran,
like towards the end zone.
Yeah. By the way, so he had his linebacker speed days.
That's my head coach. That's my head coach right there.
There you go. Caleb Collins with a super chat. Thank you, Caleb. Brian Mason, Harry, BMO. Yeah, I mean, Brian Mason and Harry Houston were just two tremendous hires. But again, we're not talking about him enough. But Mike Mickens is doing a tremendous job as a cornerbacks coach in Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's a line.
Talent.
There's a line for raises. There's a line for raises for the assistant coaches. It starts with Brian Mason. Harry he stands there. Let's see here. Mickens
Harry's only there at number 2 because of Mason's team's unit started from day one. Mason's special teams were good from day one. Harry needed 2.5.
Coach Mickens is there as well. Those three guys all need to renegotiate at the end of this year.
No doubt. Doing a great job. And hey, let's not forget about Dylan McCullough either now.
Oh, you're absolutely right. He can join the Rays party.
Dylan McCullough needs to jump into that conversation as well.
You're not wrong.
He's doing a tremendous job. And he's breeding All-Americans. You know what I'm saying? So, like, at least freshman All-Americans, too. So his son, Deshaun, is doing a great job at Indiana this year. Spark5219 also said Benjamin Morrison MVP, and he's only a freshman. Great game. Runner-up, offensive line, and then defensive line. Ian Johnson with a super chat. Not a fan of Dabo taking timeouts down 28 into the fourth quarter.
Dude, he didn't know. He's not in this position. He didn't know what to do. He's not used to being down like this. He's like, what do we do? Timeout. We got
we're doing movie references, right? It's a scene from Miracle when Kirk Gibson, when Kurt Russell's character looks over at the Russian coach and he's like, he doesn't know what to do. He's never been in this situation before.
That's what it was, man. I'm telling you. He hasn't had that since 2014 when they were like under 500 his first year.
I get why coach is pissed, but part of me, and I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here, part of me wonders if Dabo is trying to see what kind of fight his team has left, right?
That's
like,
fair.
Hey, we're not going to quit, right? We're going to try to get this ball back and score. We're not going to give up. There's still time left on the clock. We're not quitting. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And part of me wonders if maybe there wasn't something to it as well either. But to your point, I mean, when was the last time Clemson was, in a regular season game? I mean, they got waxed by Ohio State in the playoff 2 years ago. But I mean, this just doesn't happen to Clemson.
No.
I mean, they lost to Georgia last year 10-3. They lost to NC State 27-21 in overtime.
Sure.
They lost to Pitt by 10 in a relatively competitive game. 2019, no regular season losses. 2018, no regular season losses. 2017, they lost to Syracuse by 3. 2016, they lost to Pitt by a point. 2015, no regular season losses. 2014, last Georgia Tech beat them 28-6. And in that year, Georgia in the first game of the year beat them 45-21. So you got to go back. You know what? I'm going to do it, fellas. You got to go back to 2014, the start of the turnaround, the true turnaround, right? Like you had the Orange Bowl game that year before. 2013 was kind of the kickoff, but then 2014 really started the Deshaun Watson era.
Yeah.
It began with a blowout against Georgia, and it ended with a blowout against Notre Dame. People say that the win over Notre Dame was the thing that truly sparked the Clemson run. And tonight, Notre Dame ended it. I'm going to tell you that right now. They ended the Clemson dynasty.
It's interesting you say that, because if you listen to Dabo, one of the things he said this week about this team is that week to week, he doesn't know. He said this. I don't know which team is going to show up.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, they're kind of like he said, they're kind of like my 2016 team. And Deshaun had to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and they don't have a quarterback like that right now.
He said, but at least that team was coming off. He said, I understood why that team was going through that, because they were ready to just get to the playoff.
Yeah.
Like they couldn't focus week to week.
They had Bama. That's all they cared about was Bama.
All they cared about was Bama. He said, this team, I don't know. I don't know who's going to show up. And when a coach says that, it's like,
yeah.
And I thought it was interesting because I felt like, well, man, both coaches are going to be feeling that way coming into this matchup then. Like,
right.
I don't know which team I'm going to get, but Marcus Freeman, Dabo said that Tuesday, and Marcus Freeman on Monday's like, my team is ready.
Mm-hmm.
So,
very interesting.
We saw a Clemson team tonight that was just kind of like, they just kind of like played dice. They just just rolled
Let's
dice.
See what we got. Yeah.
Let's see what we got.
One team tonight had an identity, and the other one did not. And that's really what it boiled down.
Hasn't been that way all year, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's getting there. Like this is the first time where it was like, yes, I know who this team is.
In every phase.
Yeah.
In every phase. Christopher Federico, Brian Mason for president 2024. I mean, could it be worse than the options we're going to have for president 2024? I mean, it can't be worse. I mean,
don't forget to vote on Tuesday, everybody.
Yes, I will. Vince and I've already had that conversation. Derek Jancart, Brian Mason is so bad. If you ever see him fighting a bear, you better jump in and help out the bear. I mean, I dig that, Derek. I dig that,
dude. But after the block punt with the double fists,
he was so fired up, man.
That's great.
I'll tell you what, though, that is one thing you do get from a staff with some youth to it. Is you are going to get a little bit of that energy and that emotion, but. Now you see why him and Brian and Marcus Freeman are so tight, because you just see that energy. Like just the indignation in Jared Parker's face when they had the audacity to call the time. Like, actually, the timeout didn't bother me because I'm not in it. I'm not in it like the coaches are. But like the audacity to call timeout, like, you know what I mean? Just like, I'm like, I like this team. These Timmy's pissed off. I like this pissed off coaching staff and this pissed off team. I just hope it continues because they got a chance to roll.
Yes.
I mean,
with a couple tweaks here and there, I mean, this could be a really, really good young staff. Really, really good.
Yeah.
And that's even with Harry Heastan bringing him down because he's like 85.
Hey. There will be no Harry Heastan slander tonight, Vince.
All love to the geriatric community, okay? He's a great coach. He's a great coach.
Coach Heastan, your address right now. Find my phone.
I can outrun him. I'm good.
Vince speaks for himself. He does not speak for me, Sean, Jesse, or Ryan. Do not bring that heat to us. I do not want Joe Alt and Blake Fisher showing up at my house. Hey, I'll tell you something right now, Ryan. You mentioned about Blake Fisher, and I think that you're right. Blake was a man tonight. But Joe Alt played pissed off tonight, too.
I love it.
And when you're two dudes, and when I mean dudes, like, I mean, Jarrett Patterson's the captain, and he's really good, but like those are the dudes, guys. Those are the future
Absolutely.
top 10 picks.
Yep.
They played like it's like, and you know what it is, Sean? They knew who they were going up against, and they wanted it. It's like, bring it. You know what I mean? Like, bring it. Miles Murphy, bring it. Blake Fisher was like, give me some of that. Joe Alt was like, bring that. Man.
I've watched a lot of Miles Murphy over the last couple of years too. There's not a game where he's quiet either. Like Joe Alt neutralized him tonight. I mean, his only play was a coverage sack. Like it doesn't even. Yeah, it's just yeah.
The pressures they got were linebacker pressures for the most part.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like with off stunts. Michael Burke, the Super Chat 2022. Benjamin Morrison, pride of BCP. That's Brophy Prep, by the way. Following the pipeline of there it is right there. Brophy College Prep to Notre Dame. Just most of us didn't play ball. Michael Burke, I did not know you were from Brophy. I did not know that. Did not know that. Christopher Federico, Mason Heastan. He's now got a VP candidate, folks. He's now got a VP candidate. So got Harry Heastan in there. So I mean, is where's Mick? I mean, is he Secretary of State? Sean, you've met Coach Mickens. He's kind of got that, let's peacekeeper kind of thing. So you got that. Okay, I can dig that.
Yeah,
I can dig that.
I can see that.
Get that. Yep. David Ingles with a super chat. Thank you, David. If Notre Dame plays this well the rest of the year, what could their chances be for a New Year's Six game?
Look, they're legitimate and I'll look, I'm not going to rose-colored glasses it for you, but if they're top 15, they got a chance at being in the New Year's Six. And you're telling me that if they beat Clemson the way they did, they take care of business the next 2 weeks against very subpar opponents, and then they go, if USC wins out, they've got one loss going into that game, they're going to be a top 10 team. They're going to get another top 10 win? Well, you're telling me you're going to keep them out of the top 15? No way.
USC just scored with 5 minutes left to go up on Cal 41-27. It's been a dogfight. So
they're going to be a top 10 team.
I can't believe they gave up 27 points to Cal.
Well, that's because their
Cal
defense
Bears, baby. That's a tough team, the Cal Bears.
No, they're a tough team, but not their offense.
Did you see Jaden Ott hurdled over someone and cleared him while he was standing up? It was fantastic.
Could you imagine if he got to run behind either one of the offensive lines that were on the field tonight? Like Clemson's offensive line is solid. They're just not as good as Notre Dame's defensive line. I mean, that's Hey, but did y'all talk about Jason Adamiola tonight?
Yes. I mean the interior line, but not specifically. Really.
I can't wait to watch the All-22 because he just seemed to always be around the ball tonight. Like both of them were really good tonight. Both of the brothers were really good tonight.
Yeah. Hey Ryan, who do you think is calling Ott right now out of the SEC? Which SEC?
Oh gosh.
Well, if he's at Cal Berkeley, get into any school, Sean, so it might not just be the SEC.
Here's the crazy thing is, though, guys, he's really good.
Yeah.
You know one school that won't be calling him?
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. Because you got Jadarian Price coming back next year.
Yeah.
You got Jabron Payne, who's a 4-star. And then you got Jeremiah Love and potentially Jaden Lamar coming in next year, too. It ain't slowing down, fellas.
Yeah.
I'd still call him.
You can't have 19 guys you can't have 19 running backs.
Just throw him in the slot. That's what we
don't need a quarterback. You don't need a quarterback. Just run Wildcat, baby. There you go.
Jaden, I would be a good Wildcat quarterback, for being honest. But
Lou Holtz, Thunder, and Bolts. That's great. Freeman's rejection of the underdog role, confidence in his team made the difference. That's a great point. Never saw BK do that against top opponents. Freeman era kicked off tonight. Let's freaking go. Look, I hate to do this, right? Because it's unfair.
No, you don't.
But it's I do. Because it's like it's going to sound really hyperbolic. But the person who said this, Lou Holtz, Thunder and Bolts, right? Like that's how Lou Holtz was, right? Lou Holtz would play deference to these teams that weren't any good. But
sure.
You kind of saw that, but we're Notre Dame. Lou Holtz had that "we're Notre Dame" thing. You guys remember that speech that I played in the highlight video? Lou Holtz talking about Notre Dame and that speech before the Michigan game about let me see you disrespect me when we're nose to nose. You know what I mean? Vince, remember I said they should have played that before the game.
Yeah,
but it's
right.
like, but that's the mentality Marcus Freeman is bringing. You're going to respect us. We're going to make you respect us.
Yeah.
And that's how that team played tonight. And they didn't do it in a cheap way, a dirty way. Like, I'll tell you something that told me a lot about this football team. At the end of the first half, did they show on TV the cheap shot that Clemson kid? Not one Notre Dame kid came down and retaliated. They all came down to protect their guy, but there was not a punch thrown, a shove. They were ready for it, right, to a degree, but they didn't do something stupid to kind of say to get the offsetting. Like, they were just jawing, like, okay,
but what they did is they turned around and got the crowd hyped. That's what they did.
Yes, and you know what else they did, Vince? They came out in the second half and beat Clemson's ass.
Right. Yes,
that's
did.
what they did.
I was just happy to see, because before that I didn't know Clemson wanted to play or even be on the field. So that was great to see that there was a little activity happening.
It didn't little life. Ryan, it didn't spark Clemson in the second half though.
At all. Right? At all.
Right? It pissed Notre Dame off.
Yeah.
Like, man. Zach Martin was super set. Joe Alt's arms are so long. That is all. Go Irish. And there you go.
Yeah.
Michael Graves with a super chat. Thank you, Michael. All three facets contributed tonight.
For sure.
Yeah.
No doubt.
No doubt. Gregory Gilbert with super chat. $20 for 20 showing out tonight. Benjamin
I love that.
Morrison.
I love when people give super chats that have meaning behind it.
Yeah. I thought Riley Mills balled out tonight, everybody.
I knew you were going to say that.
I'm just saying.
I think every player balled out, so you should combine all the numbers together.
I'm okay with that.
Me too.
I'm cool with that. Jesse's like, what's my cut of all that? Man, I want some of this action. I want some of this juice. Mark Nuno with a super chat. Thank you, Mark, very, very much. Christopher Federico. I watched this game with friends who don't watch Notre Dame football. They were all like, who is this 7 guy? I assume he's talking about Audric Estime.
Yeah.
But he ran. Look, let's say something. Let's give a lot of credit to Tommy Rees on this one. Have you watched Audric Estime play since they gave him the ball after the fumble? Like, they benched him against UNLV? And the first 2 plays of the next game, they gave Audric the ball, and he's been a man possessed ever since. That's what good coaching is meant to do. There was accountability for the fumble. He didn't play another snap the rest of the game. There was accountability.
Yep.
But accountability doesn't have to be you throw the kid away. And Ryan, you said it before the game. Do not give up on this kid. Sean, you and Ryan did the prediction show, and exactly, and you guys both talked about this. Do not give up on Audric Estime.
Yep.
And they didn't. First 2 carries of the Syracuse game. How
did he respond, Brian? Right? He has the tough moment, and he is the first running back for Notre Dame this year to have back-to-back 100-yard rushing performances. Like, that says it all.
Yeah.
It says it all.
I mean, exactly. But they could have easily said, you know what? We got too many other good backs that are playing good football. You can't fumble the ball. Like, you get on them, you handle your business, there's accountability, and then you go right back to your guy.
Yeah.
And, man, it just says a lot about them. But then it also says a lot about Audric, too, because your coaches can give you that chance, but what are you going to do with it? Man, he stepped up, boys, and he just – oh, man. David Hess with the super chat. Thank you, David. Can't wait for the talking heads to see how Clemson didn't deserve to be – that's already started, David.
Oh, it's hard.
Ranked
Absolutely.
Fourth. I think we have possibly turned a corner. Freeman error onward Notre Dame. Now, here's the thing I will say. We're starting to turn the corner for watching – we're starting to watch them turn the corner. The next 2 weeks are going to be very important to me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
Because, guys, the last 2 weeks they've played up to the level of the competition.
Yep.
Next week, they're not. They're playing that funky triple option.
Can they be hyped for that?
Yes.
Can they be
go
hyped
down to Maryland and
Boston
play
College
with the same piss and vinegar you played the last 2 games?
Yep.
And same thing when BC comes to town. So, like, I look, I love what we saw tonight, but it's not over yet. Mm-hmm. You haven't arrived yet. Mm-hmm. Now let's see that you're not playing, because here's what it is, Jesse, and I want to get your thoughts on this. Like, there was this debate of they don't play well at home. It's the operation. You got to think about the operation. And to me, it's a sign of an immature team when you play the level of your competition, right?
Absolutely.
So to me, I'm very curious to see if this is not we matched Clemson and Syracuse, or is it truly this is who we are, and it doesn't matter who's on the other side of the field.
Yeah, that's how it's got to be. I thought coming into the game it was more of playing down to your competition, and I think next week is the perfect test for that because it's a triple option offense. You have to play assignment sound. You have to do all the right things. You're gonna, it's gonna be a physical game. It's the perfect test to coming out and kind of squashing this kind of myth, or not myth, because it's been proven to be true so far. But coming off of Clemson and all of the, that's what happened against BYU. They got back from BYU, big win, getting back from Vegas, and they laid an egg. How can you go out against a team where you have to play assignment sound football, and can you continue to play at a high level? And I think that's a perfect test for them next week.
Yeah, no doubt. And to play with because, like, Sean, I mean, how many times the last couple of years did we watch Notre Dame go into this triple option game and just play passive? Like, I don't want to hurt, my knees, or I don't want to do this, and I don't, just not even play aggressive. And that's something else I want to see too, is I want to see this team come out and just say, like, I want to see this offense like come out and just like, we're going to finally get it going. Yeah, we're going to learn a lot about this team because, like, look, this team has shown a very important character. Marcus Freeman has shown a very important characteristic. He can get his team to respond to adversity. But there's another part of being a great team. How do you handle success? Now that everybody's going to tell you how great you are, you just whoop Clemson's butt, and this is to the point Jesse was making, Sean. Everybody's telling you how you're disappointing and you shouldn't have lost to this team and that team, and you're able to use that as fuel to do this. Now everybody's going to tell you, man, you guys have turned a corner. This is who you're supposed. You guys are doing great, and you're about to play two bad teams, and we're all talking about USC now, right? That's what USC in 3 weeks. USC in 3 weeks, right? But
absolutely,
there's a couple games to play before that, Sean, where we're also going to learn a lot about this team. How do you handle success?
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait to see it, right? But I'm going to be honest. My prayer, please just come out of this Navy game healthy. With all the top blocks.
Yes.
Just come out healthy. Because that's the game where you find out you get ankle injuries, knee injuries, all types of nicks and bruises, and it's a physical game, more physical than most people actually realize. But it's an opportunity. I'm more interested in watching the offense and what they try to do. Do they come in and just say, oh, we can just run over Navy, or do they actually try to get, the passing game flowing, going into BC and then expand upon that. So by the time they get to USC, there's some other things that they can go to. I'm very interested whether or not they stay aggressive or become passive and kind of rest on their laurels, offensively and defensively, or do they stay aggressive? That's what I'm going to be watching for. I think defensively, Al Golden has shown us that he's going to be aggressive, pretty consistent. Like, that's what he prefers to do. Tommy, on the other hand, honestly, like I said, the way this offensive line is playing right now, I can't be mad at Tommy leaning on this offensive line.
Though, Sean, here's the thing, though, about leaning into it. There's leaning into it because you're just running the same freaking play over and over again. Yeah. Which is kind of how I felt last week. But tonight there was purpose to it, though. That's the difference.
Yeah.
Formation this way to seal the edge. Let's mix up inside. Like, let's show duo looks pre-snap, quickly shift. Don't give them time to adjust, because they were doing some scan, but tonight it was get in the huddle, make the call, get your shift, get your movement. Because we talked about this, Ryan, during the week, and I'm sure Sean, you and Malik talked about it, I would imagine. And it was like, don't do the scan stuff. Just get lined up quickly. Don't let Clemson adjust. And they did that, and they were able to get leverage. They were able to. And Ryan, we talked about protecting the run game. It's not just about mixing up your run plays, which we saw, mixing up inside zone and duel. We saw G-Rap tonight come back and be successful. We saw a toss play that worked really effectively. Was it to Tyree or was it to Diggs? I think it might have been to Diggs. But they ran a really nice, and he made a great cut. But get him in space. But they were really using formations and such to protect certain things, to get leverage, things we haven't seen, Sean. There was no purpose to it. It's just we're going to line up in 13 personnel, protect the edges, and run duo at you. Yeah. We saw more. There was more intention. There was more method to the madness tonight, and that's what I liked.
Yeah.
And
you want to mess me up there for a second. You said you saw G-Rap tonight. I was like, man, cool G-Rap was in the building.
Guard.
I'm showing my age right now. I'm sorry. When you like, man, I saw G-Rap tonight. I'm like, word?
Like, how did you go from duo inside zone to a rapper was at the game tonight? No,
but no. I think we've all mentioned it in some way, form, or fashion. It's just like Ryan's been begging for it. Like, please show variety in the run game.
Yes.
I don't know. Yeah. That's going back to like the Ohio State game. Brian has been begging for it. Like, please show something different. And you saw it tonight. And Vince pointed out, man, we saw 21 personnel. What do you know?
I still don't know why they didn't go back to that.
Not enough, but we did see it.
It was going to be wide open if they did. It was they were so focused on the middle of the field in the run game that wheel route, flat route, it was going to be wide open all night.
Now, I'm going to say something else, and I'm not going to try to give away too much, but I talked about 3 or 4 different people this week that were at practice. And Vince, when did the wind weather thing start to? Was that about Thursday that the wind started? Like talk about how it was going to be a lot windier than. Like first it was going to be rain and then like wind.
Right. Yeah.
But anyway, they had some stuff that they worked on this week that they were going to use that I think would have changed our perception of this game plan even more that they didn't get to because of the conditions. And I'll just leave it at that. And so I'm curious to see if we're going to see that stuff moving forward. And it didn't result tonight in a lot of throws, but because of the conditions, but we saw a lot of Dion and Tobias playing together in 12 personnel.
Yeah.
And if they get the pass game going out of 12 personnel with those 2 kids on the field, that's when this offense really takes off.
Absolutely. I actually really liked a lot of the personnel decisions offensively today.
Yeah,
I really did.
I mean, again, I'd like to see more 21. You know,
I completely agree. But you're seeing Colsey and Merriweather on the field together a lot.
But yes, exactly.
I like that.
Exactly. John Monty with a super chat. Unbelievable that's all I have to say. Notre Dame really put it all together all the way around. Go Irish. Thank you,
Beautiful.
John, very, very much. Chris Frederico also said, where's Brian? So just to let y'all know why I wasn't planning on being the show initially was because our internet went out. And that's why Vince is hanging out in front of a treadmill instead of being at his house with that cool Notre Dame plaque behind him, or that Irish Breakdown plaque behind him. We had bad storms today, and our internet, and Vince and I live in the same neighborhood, so we're on the same internet company, and it went out, and they said it wasn't going to be restored till 3:00. And I knew we had Jesse coming on the show, so I didn't, man, we'll be fine. And so Vince went over to his buddy's house, so I just wasn't planning on being the show. But we were about 5 minutes from home when my mom called me. She goes, "Hey, the internet's back," and I was like, "Yep." Let y'all know I'm coming home. I'm not going to talk to y'all. I'm going downstairs. I'm jumping the show. Angela's like, Angela's like, well, why do you need? I said, I'm going to be on my show after they beat Clemson. There's no way I'm not going to get on this show at least to a degree.
Exactly.
After they beat Clemson. It's not happening. But glad to be with y'all. Fat Jack 33, because this is the first time I've been on a show with Jesse, so I'm kind of excited about that. Vince, I know you have before. Ryan, I know you have, I think. Fat Jack 33 with a super chat. Thank you all for the great work you do. Nice to see Jesse in the house. I agree. Daniel Brown with a super chat. Thank you very much. Our Canadian friend with it. Yes, sir.
Hey.
Hey, thanks for the super chat, eh?
Hey.
Brian B with a super chat. Great win. Great IB staff chat. Thank you, sir, very, very much. And thanks again to all the people that showed up today. I got to meet some people that I'd seen before, some people I had never met before. Nick Gonzalez came in. He came in from San Jose, California to the game, and I got to meet him and his dad. That was great. Patrick Barnes with a super chat. Is it just me? It seemed like the loudest I've ever seen Notre Dame Stadium.
Yes.
It was up there.
Since I've been there. Since I've been covering the team, it was the loudest. Except maybe the USC game in 05.
2017 USC was pretty loud.
USC
you know which
05,
game was also pretty loud?
Push.
15 Texas was pretty nuts.
Okay.
That and then another game that was really loud, 14 Michigan in the second half was rocking. Remember, that's the year they won 37-0. And yes, it was 37-0. Forget all that noise. Max took that. That was not a penalty on Max. That was a touchdown for Elijah Shoemate. But that second half was pretty loud. But for this game from start to finish was crazy. Mm-hmm. And in Texas 15 and USC 17 are the two loudest I've seen, other than along with this, But I think tonight might even, because like Vince, we felt a little like a little rumble in the press box. We don't normally, normally.
Part of that was the wind gusts, but yeah, it was. It was a raucous crowd tonight, which is not normal at all.
Patrick Fitzgerald with a big super chat. Thank you, Patrick, so very much. Benjamin Morrison. That's all I got. That's all you need, Patrick.
All you need.
I mean, that's all you need, buddy. Byron Levklich with a super chat. Thank you very, very much, Byron. Appreciate that. Patrick Barnes is back again. How much does a game atmosphere like this affect recruiting? Notre Dame Stadium was fire lit tonight, Ryan. I'll let Ryan address this because Ryan had a really good article about what this game can mean short term and long term if they win, Ryan. So why don't you go ahead and I'm sure you've already gotten some feedback on stuff. So what are your thoughts on that, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, Brian, I was reading a couple of texts that I've already had from recruits early on in the chat because that was something that we had already talked about. I mean, people said stuff like indescribable, best game I've ever been to, like not best Notre Dame game, best game I've ever been to, electric, like all those words have kind of used. And I think that for me, it's actualizing things, right? It's you hear the vision. You hear what Coach Freeman wants to do. You hear what this position coach wants to do and what the long-term goals of this program are. But then you see this type of victory, right? And you feel that atmosphere and you feel the energy and it becomes actualized. And you're like, oh, that's what they're preaching to me, right? Like that's real. That's here. That's tangible. I can feel it now, right? So those things I think are kind of what was exemplified in this game tonight for recruits. If you were there in the stadium, and I know that I've gotten a lot of feedback at this point with guys who are just kind of they're in awe with what this game meant to their feelings of the program, and it's actualizing the excitement around the program that we know was there already.
That's it right there. All the stuff that they've been selling recruits about who they're going to be, it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to show it. I've used this example before, guys, where I remember talking to Alize Mack, and he was talking about his recruitment, and he said, when I went to UCLA, because if y'all remember, he was committed to UCLA for a long time.
Yep.
And he said, when I went to UCLA, they'd get on the board and draw up how they were going to use me. When I went to Notre Dame, they popped in the film and showed me how they're going to use me. And that mattered, and Marcus Freeman's talking, we're going to be physical, run a ball, we're going to play with, attitude, we're going to do all this. Okay, cool, show me. Well, 2 games in a row they've shown you. Can I say something else?
Yep.
Notre Dame blew out Syracuse 41-27. No, I can't, Vince. You're so mean. They beat Clemson 35-14. Do y'all know they have scored in the 20s offensively in both games? Like where offense got the ball and drove down the field and scored. Now, that's not a shot on the offense. That's all they needed. But it's what I'm talking about is the nature of the team wins.
Yeah.
Right? Which means, guys, the offense is going to get figured out some way, somehow. Imagine what they can do when that gets figured out. They have thrown for about 200 yards of total the last 2 games. Around 200 yards total. And they dominated 2 teams that are already bowl eligible. It's impressive.
It just went from 159 to 1.
We officially hit daylight savings.
Yes, we did. We just
We're
went
back to
an
noon?
hour.
All right.
You're back to 1. We went from 159 to 1.
That's what I'm talking about. Vince, you said we were going to do it.
Which means we have another hour, right?
That's right. It's only 1 o'clock. Suck it up. Suck it up. So it's for Sean. It was almost like you had to repeat Saturday again. George Delaney, because Sean's in Central Time. George Delaney, Notre Dame finally beat a top 5 rated team with a healthy squad after 12 years. So congratulations to BK. Neither team is making the college football championship, and you never want to face Freeman's ND ever. Thank you, George. Chris Federico with another super chat. Thank you very much, Chris. Their wide receiver screen wasn't there all night. I was always happy to see them run it. I wrote this and Ryan, I'd be curious to get your thoughts on this. I felt like, and Jesse, you can chime in too. You guys are the defensive guys. I felt like Notre Dame was baiting Clemson into throwing their RPOs outside. I thought the way Notre Dame was lining up, and they would kind of like that snap kind of peek inside, and as soon as they saw DJ pull, they were flying to the sideline. It's almost like they wanted Clemson to throw those passes. Like that's what it felt like to me. The way that they were lining up and the way they were reacting post snap, it's like they knew they could bait DJ into pulling and throwing those balls. Did you guys see that on watching the game, or is that something you're gonna have to go back and look for?
No, I mean, I got that vibe. I would say this is and we talked about this, Brian, during the week, right? Like, this is a Clemson wide receiver group that outside of Antonio Williams isn't really a yak team, right? Like, they're not the big take a screen, break a tackle, slip a tackle, going to create a big play. Like, that's not how they're built outside of Antonio Williams. So I think it's smart of Notre Dame to, hey, let's work inside out, and then let's let them try to actualize those types of plays, but we know that that's not their bread and butter, right? So you're forcing a team to try to take advantage of something that I don't think is a strength for them.
So what you're saying, Jesse, what we're saying is schematically, Al Golden and the staff said, we're going to not let them beat us with what they like to do best. We're going to make them beat us with the worst part of their football team. That's called good coaching.
Yeah, and like Ryan said, they used their leverage a lot. They made them, they forced everything to the outside. Used the sideline as their extra defender, and it was just good to see good tackling, forcing everything inside out, like he was saying, and just made good plays on the perimeter.
Man, it was fun to watch. I mean, just because, again, it's not that they physically. I mean, I honestly, I've never watched a game, and Sean, I know you haven't either, because you and I are very similar. So I've never watched a game where I looked at every call and said, I wouldn't change anything. Like, there's always going to be things I don't like this call, that call. And this is true of this game, but I really felt like they were well coached on both teams. I felt like they were well prepared. They knew where Clemson was weak. They knew how to get Clemson on their heels. I just felt like game plan wise and execution wise, you'd have thought Notre Dame was the team with the extra week to prepare, not Clemson. And I mean, look, hats off. We've been ripping Tommy Rees all year, and we've said it's not personal. I don't want to rip Tommy Rees. It's because but tonight, I thought that especially with the conditions, because what if we taught 19 Michigan, 16 NC State? That team was woefully unprepared for the weather conditions. Tonight, they were not. Now, part of it is because the team is suited for that, right? But we were asked a lot before the game, like, which team do we thought was going to be better prepared? But, like, Notre Dame forced Clemson to throw the football, and there was nothing Clemson could do to force Notre Dame to throw the football. Nothing. Notre Dame's like, we're going to throw when we want to. There's nothing you can do about it. Oh, boy, that was impressive. Townie Irish, finally, thank you for the super chat, Townie. Finally, a dominant performance. Go Irish. Brandon Plensner with a super chat. Joseph told me post-game he'll be good by next week because I asked him if he was good when I ran into him after the game. Because we didn't see a lot of Brandon Joseph in the second half of the game.
That's injury insider Brandon Plesner right now.
That's right. That's right. Was he breaking news on Irish Breakdown, baby?
I love it,
was he limping when he told you that? That's what I'm worried about. Was he like, yeah, I'm good?
Dark. Yeah, they had him pinned in on like when they stormed the field, like, hey man, I'm good as long as y'all let me get through this line and get to the game.
Yeah, right.
Vince, can you do that imitation again? That was fantastic.
My limp. I'll be good. I'll be good. Don't worry.
Okay, Vince, I love you, man. You're the best. Tyler Evans with super chat. ACC champs. I can't wait till North Carolina and Clemson play in the ACC championship, and Notre Dame is that we smashed both of y'all.
Yeah, right.
Battle of second place.
Sean had the stat earlier: 27-0 against ACC teams in the regular season. Unbelievable. I mean, up to the last.
And Notre Dame has now beat Clemson 2 of the last 3 times.
That is accurate.
They've played. Yep. Yes, sir, Bob. Here we go. Tyler Evans with a super chat. Thank you, Tyler. How did Clemson not get a flag the last play second quarter going into halftime? Which play was that?
They're talking about the push, the shove, like after the fact. They definitely
got a penalty.
I thought it might have been. I wonder if
the last play was a sack. The last play was a sack.
Notes in front of me. I wonder if he's talking about like something beforehand. I'm not sure.
He's talking about Parks, and they got the 15 yards to start the second half.
There's a lot of things I didn't know how they were going to get why they weren't calling flags. Sean, and by the way, did y'all talk about how not only did Cam Hart make plays, but Cam Hart basically beat the receiver so bad that it forced him into holds too? Like, it doesn't show up in the stat sheet for him, but like that was a big part of it too, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, big part of it too. Sean Hartman, a super chat. Thank you, Sean, so much. So sweet to win this game in the dominant fashion we did. Smash mouth football all game long. Look, a win over Clemson is big no matter what. But I'm not going to lie to you guys. I felt like beating Clemson's not a statement win, right? It's just a good win. You're at home. You're Notre Dame. You're supposed to win that game. The way they won this game is a statement.
Absolutely. Yep.
It's like, what did we say? We want to see them leave the field where you're just you know who the better team is. That was never a question tonight. Never a question tonight at all. Spark 5219 with super chat. Dominance since the Lou Holtz era. I'm with you, buddy. I'm with you. Sean O'Hara with super chat. How big of a trap game could BC be? You can set any trap you want. That's a bad football team.
Yeah,
you know, but that's the kind
Especially
of the point
if number
that
five is not the QB.
Right. And that's the point Jesse and I were talking about earlier. It's like the next couple of weeks, and Sean also, the next couple of weeks, you get to show that you have matured as a football team. Is how ready can you be for that game? And I'll say this too, guys. I think the way that Notre Dame is playing right now, it's much more slump proof because it's not about weather conditions. It's not about timing of your pass game. It's we're going to line up. We're going to kick your butt.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do about it. And it's not just one side of the ball, right? Like a lot of these teams, college football, they're either great on defense, and this is what makes Georgia so good because I've been pretty good at predictions this year. I think you guys would all agree to that. But the one I got really, really wrong was Georgia, Tennessee. And what I don't give enough credit to Georgia is just a team. They're going to physically beat your butt, and they're going to do it on both sides of the ball. Where, Tennessee showed tonight, like if the one side of the ball isn't on their game, they can't win. Right? If Ohio State's offense is off, they look pretty bad. Where Notre Dame can go into those same conditions and say, so what? This is what we want. 40-mile-an-hour winds? Cool, because that means we're just going to freaking push you around the field all night. That was, if they do that, then trap games don't become trap games. But it's about whether or not they can show that maturity to bring that same focus, right? You're not going to bring the same energy. You're not going to have the same energy playing BC. You're just not. It's BC. It's just that's not realistic. But the focus can stay the same for that game compared to this one. Ryan Loftus with a super chat. How does this impact recruitment? What a statement. Ryan talked about that earlier. This is big, y'all. I mean, this is big.
It can't hurt.
Ryan
it certainly can't hurt.
And then the article, Ryan, he's like, look, it's going to help you close 23, but Notre Dame's kind of stalled a little bit with 2024. Like, this is the kind of game that can say, hey, y'all, right? This is what we told you. This is what we told you we were going to be. And now you got a chance to do it. Sean O'Hara with a super chat. Thank you, Sean. Who was the biggest recruit there? Peyton Bowen. Ryan, I'm sorry. I'm answering this for you. Peyton Bowen.
Man. It's not even a question.
Did you watch Oklahoma get smacked by Baylor? Did you watch Texas A&M get smacked by the old Florida Gators?
Texas A&M is 3-6, man. 3-6.
Do you want to go there? Play for those teams on defense? Terrible. Or do you want to come here and be a star and be a champion and walk out?
Weren't they top 10, top 5, something going into the season?
Which we all said that was a joke.
We always are, Vince.
I know, but still, that's an epic collapse. I don't think anybody thought they were going to be 3-6 right now.
Yeah. Sean Hartman said, "What do we pay Mason to stay forever?" Look, I don't want Brian Mason to stay forever because he's a young guy with a fan. I want him to be a head coach someday. I want Dylan McCall to be a head coach someday. There's one coach that I'm giving a lifetime contract to, and that's Harry Heastan. That's the one dude on the staff that wants to be a full-time lifer and his assistant, right? There's two coaches, Marcus Freeman and Harry Heastan. I want Mickens to be gone someday because I want him to be a head coach someday. I want these, I want Al to get that shot. I want Dylan to get that shot. I want all those guys to have that shot if they want it.
Sure.
Harry's not going anywhere. Coach Free's not going anywhere. Those are the two guys that I want. But if Brian Mason loves it here and he wants to pull a Mike Elston, I'm cool with that too. I'm cool with that too. All right. We got a super chat here from Will Pacou. Go MF Tigers. Brian Kelly isn't the same guy he was. Thank you for the super chat very much. Sean O'Hara, can we beat SC? Look.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a statement.
Did you see Cal put 35 on him just now?
Yeah.
Jack Plummer threw for 400 yards against them.
406 yards.
There you go.
Yeah.
Play the Cam Hart clip, Brian. just play the Cam Hart clip.
I'm going to say this, and I mean it. And Sean and I think, Sean, you and I talked about this on the show after Stanford. I believe we said this in the show. If this team plays to its potential, there aren't many teams that can beat them.
Correct.
And especially on their own schedule. If they could do this to Clemson, there's nobody on their schedule that can. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, can USC beat Notre Dame? Yes, they can.
Of course.
Yes, they can.
Of course.
But Can Notre Dame beat USC? There's no question. There's no question. If Notre Dame continues to develop as a program and plays their game. And Sean O'Hara says, where will we be ranked Sunday? I don't really, I mean, I'd say probably early 20s.
Yeah, I'd say that too.
I mean,
somebody said 19. I think that might be a little high.
I was thinking like high teens.
The only reason I would say high teens is possible, because normally you don't, 6-3, but you saw a lot of teams at the bottom lose tonight.
That's true.
There's
going to be a shakeup in the bottom half for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you saw 20 Syracuse lose, they're out. 21 Wake Forest lost, they're out.
16 lost. 18
Oklahoma State lost, they're now 6-3. 16, yeah, at least Illinois, you could at least say they got 7-2, but they don't have any good wins. Notre Dame's got who was it earlier that was talking about? Was it Jesse you're talking about? Like, who's got more statement wins right now? I mean, who's got more big wins than Notre Dame right now?
Right.
Yeah. But that's the other thing too. What's Illinois' statement win? So yeah, I mean, Sean, I think you're right. I could see late teens. The poll that means more for me, Sean, though, is I don't really once the college football playoff poll comes out, I stop really caring.
Yeah, that's the one. The Tuesday's the one I care about.
Yeah,
I don't care. They
were what were they 30th on the AP poll this week, guys?
They were getting some votes. They were getting.
I think they were pretty high, Jesse. I think they were the fifth team out. I think they were 30th out. They actually went from no votes the week before, that when they pounded Syracuse, they actually got a lot of votes. Mm-hmm. Now you beat a top 5 Clemson team.
Yeah.
I mean, let me rephrase that. You destroy a top 5 Clemson team, you're going to jump into the top 25. There's no doubt about it. Andre Rainey, Brian, does a true QB1 put us over the top? I mean, it's not the only thing, right? There's some other things that have to get fixed. But yes, if they can continue building on this right now, I mean, look, I still think, we need to see a little bit more in the D line. Linebacker still has room to get a little better. Some things like that. Receiver room needs more depth and all those kind of things. But yeah, a kicker that can consistently make kicks. But I mean, the biggest thing still missing from the program right now is a big time quarterback. I mean, hey Vince, maybe Dylan's that guy. Who knows, man? Get some protein shakes in him, man. Let him fill out a little bit. There you go.
I was about to say that.
You always steal my thunder.
Ryan, man, what did you and I talk about last night, man?
It's always still my thunder, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
The recruiting guy was talking about my son. That can't be bad.
Yeah. Stephen Warnick with a super sticker. Thank you, Stephen. Very, 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 very much. Brian Burke says, after Dabo's late TO, I would have thrown long. I would have. I mean, I might have lost it if he'd have done that. If he would have had Tommy throw a bomb, just put Tobias or Dion outside, just throw a fade, that would have been okay. If you could say what was the only thing that could make this a better night, that would have been it right there. Is if he'd have called that, hey, Clemson hasn't quit, so we're not going to quit. That would have been good. But you know what? What though? I almost kind of like the fact that Notre Dame said you can call timeout and plan for whatever you want. You still can't stop us running the football.
Right. We're still going to rush for 13.
Jesse was talking about that third. Yeah, it's just that.
Yeah.
That was a bigger. I mean, maybe the fade could have resulted in a touchdown, but that
was a bigger middle finger.
You don't belong on the field with us.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not in our league right now,
right?
Because you know what's coming.
Yes,
and you still
everybody in this. I mean, you talked about how when you talk about the offensive line from 2017 and how everybody in the stadium knew they were going to run the ball. Everybody in the stadium has known Notre Dame's going to run the ball the last 2 weeks. Every time that they were about to do it, and neither Clemson nor Syracuse could stop them. Nobody.
Nothing.
I mean, Marcus Freeman could have been like, "We're running duo next. It's going to be duo
to the left."
And it would not have mattered in any way, shape, or form.
I mean, that's kind of pretty much what Tommy Rees did against Syracuse. I mean, because duo kind of gives away formationally. You pretty much did. Michael Burke, 54-76, bookends for a generation. Michael,
I like that.
I hate to break it to you, but Joe Alt's the left tackle and Blake's the right tackle.
He knew what he was doing. He knew what he was doing.
Well done, Michael. We appreciate you. Sean O'Hara, record of Indy now with or without Tyler Buckner. I don't want to spend too much time on this because we don't know. I was asked this question in the tailgate. I said they're 7-2 if Tyler Buckner's the starting quarterback. I think they'd beat Stanford. I do. But you wonder if would they have been forced to become this team if Tyler was still playing.
Right. And I think that's
Yeah.
Right. And that's not a shot on Tyler. It's just like
they
were forced to become this team. And it's just like it's almost like, yeah. All right, Sean O'Hara, John the Falcon, Brian, be honest, would have used the internet issue as an excuse to miss a show if this game was 35. If this game was 35-14 Clemson, yeah, I'd be upstairs hanging out watching TV or something right now, crying in my milk or
I wouldn't be in my
cereal
buddy's,
or something.
I wouldn't be in my buddy's basement right now. I'd be like,
this show would have been over like an hour and a half ago. Ryan, Sean, and Jesse.
Yep.
Sorry, y'all. Vince and I don't have internet. You guys handle it.
Sorry, I'd be studying the inside of my eyeballs right now.
Yeah, exactly. Jesse, like, man, this is the show I get invited on for. Is this one? Yeah, exactly. Okie Nobi with a super chat. Thank you. Marcus Freeman era officially started tonight. First season, and already it has a top 5 win and a dominating one at that. What do you guys think this does for the 2023 QB recruiting? I mean, I think it makes Notre Dame. Ryan, when you say this is kind of something like, if you're a kid that Notre Dame jumps on, like, look, it's not going to make Jackson Arnold want to come to Notre Dame or Dante Moore or whoever else, but yeah. I mean, I think it's got to open up some eyes.
I think so. I mean, when you think about, starting point is the offensive line, the running backs, right? Yeah. Like you look at that running game that's going to protect you, look at the offensive line that's going to protect you, and then you can do your research and see, oh, wow, they also got this guy named Jaden Greathouse in the 2023 class, and Braylon James and Dylan Edwards, Rico Flores, pretty good player. Cooper Flanagan, pretty solid tight end too. So, they get a lot going for them in the 2023 class. So we'll see how everything pops out and finishes out here in 2023. But I still feel pretty good that Notre Dame will end up with a quarterback. But there's a lot to sell with this type of performance, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a quarterback, though, you got to think that guy's going to look at this and say, I could be the missing link. I mean, like somebody said, there's other things you got to work on, but the most glaring thing is a big-time quarterback. I just got to think that call is going to be a lot. Because some people say, well, why would a quarterback want to play in that offense? All they do is hand the ball off. But it's a real easy sell. Hey, man, we don't want to have to. Imagine how good we'd be if we could actually throw the ball too.
Right.
And
you could sell. Yeah, and you could sell an opportunity to compete early, right? Like the quarterback play is not where it needs to be right now, and you can come in, you can compete, man. Let's see what you can do.
Yep. Craig Sebring with Super Chat. If you would have told me we run for 263 yards on Clemson, I would have said you were drunk. But to quote Lou Holtz, we played smash face football. I would have not believed that. I wouldn't have thought that. I thought that I was like, look, I think they could rush for like $163, and that's a good performance against a team. Y'all, Clemson came in, giving up 87.8 rushing yards per game. 87.8. 8 games into the year, they're giving up 87.8 yards per game.
3 yards per carry coming into the football game. Yeah.
And Notre Dame's rushing attack tonight averaged 5.6 yards per carry, even with them taking a knee at the end of the game.
Crazy.
5.6 per carry. Caleb Collins, what happened to Lorenzo Styles? That kid's confidence is shot. Did you guys see him fighting the ball on that?
Yeah, that was awful, man. That was awful.
Yeah.
Like,
Brian, I'm usually an advocate for letting guys fight out of their slumps, but like
this is
can't play him right now. You can't play him right now.
Sean, here's the difference. Ryan, here's the difference. Audric had his fumbles, had to deal with the consequences in that one game, and he's bounced back. This going back to Cal, this has been an issue for Lorenzo going back to Cal.
Yeah.
And at some point in time, you got to be like, my man, like. And we had somebody tell us in the thing that this was going on all week in practice. Somebody at the tailgate told us this was going on all week in practice. It's in his head now.
Yeah.
He's fighting the ball.
Yeah.
And
because it's not like it's a highly contested pass or something, right? Like you got the training wheels on him right now. You're throwing him screens and stops and like it's just
he's not. Yeah. He looks like someone that's become robotic and he's not being athletic anymore.
Right. He's Chuck Knoblauch at this point in time, guys. It's in his head.
That's a good point. Brian, we always say this. Like we go back to the two games in 2020, and we say, look, Notre Dame was able to control the trenches 6 of the quarters. 6 of the 8 quarters, they control the line of scrimmage against Clemson.
It's now 10 of 12 quarters.
10 of 12 quarters. Like, so now it's become a thing. Like,
right.
The players feel like, oh, we know we can push you around.
Yeah.
It was almost like when Lou Holtz faced Miami. You might have more speed, but we know we can push you around.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Sean, we had a super chat that speaks to this. I want to pull this up to your point. Guy N says IB Nation extends all the way to Japan, so that's awesome. Like that's so great. You said before the game you didn't believe our O-line was going to be able to dominate their D-line. Do you believe now? What I said was I didn't think they were going to be able to dominate them the way that they had done before. I thought they'd win some snaps. Clemson win some snaps. I thought they could play well. And what I said was dominant against this team is not going to look like it did against Syracuse. That's where I was dead wrong because it was even more dominant than it was against Syracuse.
Yeah.
And do I believe now? Yeah. Like sorry for doubting you guys.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like I like to be right. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I was right about the running back. This is why I graded Logan Diggs so high coming out of college. This is why I had Benjamin Morrison as top 100 guy. Blah 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 blah. Sean, if you'd have told me on a show this week, they're like, "Hey guys, they're gonna run for 250 yards." Dude, Sean, this isn't the Homer site, right? Like that's not what we do here. This isn't the Homer site. I would have not believed it. I would not have, or I'd have said, like maybe they rip off like an 80-yard touchdown run at the end of the game or something like that, right? Like I wouldn't have believed it.
Yeah,
263 yards, and your longest run was 20 yards. You averaged 5.6 yards per. You had 200. Here's a great stat, guys. 271 gained yards. They only had 8 negative yards in the game, and 2 of those negative yards were taking a knee at the end of the game. And another one of those batch of negative yards was Drew Pine getting sacked. Like, wow. That was impressive. That was really impressive. Man, unbelievable. But hey, Guy, my man, I love the fact that IB Nation is worldwide. Like, that is so – we have Ireland. We have our guy Alberto from Spain, our Canadian friends. We've had people from Southeast Asia. Now we got Japan. Love that IB Nation is worldwide. That is so awesome. So awesome. We got another Zach Martin also gave us another He Stand Mason 2024. So he's going with the veteran. The vet is going to get the lead on that ticket. Adrenaline Inspired. I missed the Ian Book interview. Can someone give me a link to it? I can't find it anywhere at all. What's he talking about?
No idea.
I think he was on NBC or Peacock pregame, if I'm not mistaken.
Did they not have the Clemson people doing halftime for NBC in this game or something? Did they?
Yeah, LeVon Kirkland was on there with Julian Love this week.
Yeah. Yep.
That's so lame. Oh, this is hilarious. This is a great name. I Ain't Afraid of No Goats. Y'all get that for the play on of Ghostbusters? I Ain't Afraid of No Ghosts? Okay, good. This was the best Notre Dame defensive performance, I think, since some of the game in 2012. And if not 2012, then Willingham's first year when we won 6 games without the offense scoring a point. I mean, it was – guys, this was very reminiscent of 2012, but here's the difference. This team is faster than that. This isn't like as the big physical team like they were in 2012. This team's faster, but as far as dominance, I'd say it's close. I mean, over a good team, yes. I don't think the 2012 defense ever dominated a good team the way that they dominated tonight.
Yeah.
Right? Like maybe Stanford. But Stanford still rushed for 147 yards in that game and averaged 4.2 yards per play. Clemson tonight averaged 4.3 yards per play. And let's be real about that. A lot of that's because of the stuff they got late in the game.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
For most of the game, Notre Dame had more rush yards than Clemson had total yards. It wasn't until the last drive that Clemson went over. And even then, at the end of the game, Clemson finished with 281 yards of total offense.
They had 70-some at halftime.
Yeah. Notre Dame had
wild.
263 rushing yards. Oh, man.
That's bananas.
I'd have to think. There's been some dominant games, but I get the point he's making. Like, this looked like this is what we thought. We're talking about a lot about the offense tonight, right? And part of that is because the defense has been pretty good this year, so it's not as shocking to watch the defense do what they did. But I do feel like, as we talk about how good the offense was, we can't forget about how the defense was really good tonight, guys.
Yeah.
Really good.
Fantastic.
Really good. Stephen Don Moyer with a super chat. After today's game, how likely do you see a QB flip? Thoughts, Ryan? It just depends on who they target. Let me see who they reach out to this week, right? They're not going to flip someone that's currently it's not going to be Dante Moore. It's not going to be Jackson Arnold. It's not going to be somebody like that, right?
Yeah. We've put the names on the board, right? Like, you put the names on the board that, we think that Notre Dame should go after, or that, Notre Dame's is taking peeks at, and all that good stuff. As Notre Dame continues to play better football, I think it'll make it easier to flip one potentially. But again, we have to kind of see how the process plays out here. Only a few weeks from signing day, which is pretty wild.
I know. It won't be Avery Johnson. It's another name that people float. Jacob Abel, thank you, Jacob. Hey, Vince, I was glad to meet you at the tailgate. Brian, didn't get to talk to you, but thanks for the food. Great win. Students are rightfully celebrating. Jacob, thank you for stopping by. I'm sorry I didn't see you. So I think I remember here after. I remember you seeing over there. I apologize I didn't get a chance to talk to you, but yeah, it was a lot of fun tonight, guys. I really wish you could have come. Sean and Ryan, you've been at a tailgate. Jesse and Sean, you guys haven't been at one. We'll have to get you guys to one of these days. So, Sean, what you got to do is you got to not put it out in the universe that you're coming. Right, just maybe in your head think about it, but then just show up on Saturday and head to the game. You know what I mean? Just I'm just going to roll.
I think what I'll do is I'll come down. So I'm all due. I'm perfect when I'm coming down for media stuff all the time.
Yeah, just say you're coming to cover the game.
So I'll come down to cover, and that'll be instead of coming.
There you go.
There you go.
Andy Nation, that was fun. Thank you for the super chat. That was fun. Pick six, so sweet. Sevens equal beast. Sean Stewart. This just sums it up right here, guys. If you just want to sum this game up in 2 words, and it's really in all 3 phases, bully ball.
Yes.
Yep.
Guys, in all 3 phases, it was that way. Because we're not talking enough about that, Jesse. We're not talking enough about how the Notre Dame defensive line whooped the Clemson offensive line in this game, too.
Yeah.
Yes, they did.
We're not talking enough about that.
Wow.
The defense just never gave Clemson an avenue to get back into the game. And that was a very, very refreshing thing. And that's kind of been the backbone of the defense's mistake, is Notre Dame kind of having the success and then the defense giving up a big play when they need to stop them the most.
Because we were waiting for it, right?
Right.
Like, we were all waiting for it to happen. We were like, okay, it's going to happen.
Yep.
And it never did. Yeah.
And one of their touchdowns was officiating driven.
Yeah.
It
was.
The Wine Dude with a super chat. Thank you, sir. That was the most complete game since Michigan 2014. The O-line put together a Joe Moore Award type performance. Steaks and wine for all after this masterpiece. Here's again that put it in. I think that he's on. That Michigan game in 2014 was a really dominant performance.
Yep.
But again, y'all, that Michigan team wasn't nearly as good as the team they beat today.
It's true.
Very true. Not even close.
Yeah.
Let Manager 1 with a super chat. Thank you very much. Okay, boys, what are you setting the over-under on rushing yards versus USC? I'm just worried about Navy first, y'all. Let's do that one. But I'll say this, that it better at least have a 2 on it if they're going to win that game.
I said it early at 220, 225. USC will be coming off an emotional game for the Pac-12 championship.
That's going to be 2 tough weeks for USC, UCLA, and Notre Dame.
UCLA first, and then Notre Dame.
And bite. And by tough, Jesse, you're talking about physically tough.
Physically tough.
Yes.
Chip Kelly up tempo, but still runs very physical.
Charbonnet, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They are. How'd they do tonight? Did you guys? I didn't see a lot of the.
They were up double digits. Double digits. Yeah.
I'm looking at the final for their game now. I don't see it here. 50-36. Wow, they gave up a lot of points tonight. But yeah, they scored 50. That's a physical football, and he's reinvented himself a little bit. They're not running the ball the way they did at Oregon with the speed and the tempo and a mess of outside zone and buck sweep and reads. I mean, they're coming at you. And that team comes at you. That's going to be two. Jesse's nailed it. That's going to be two really, really physical games. And then does Notre Dame benefit? It's like this: either USC benefits because they got a taste of that physicality and it prepares them for Notre Dame, or what I think is going to happen is kind of what happened to Syracuse against Notre Dame. It's like Clemson softened them up, and then Notre Dame came in and said, okay, if you think that was tough.
Right.
Wait.
If you think Clemson was physical, wait till you get a load of us. You know what I mean? And with all due respect to Clemson, they're not nearly as physical on offense as UCLA is.
I can tell you who feels really good about their chances tonight. That's North Carolina. They're probably looking at their chops like, we can hang with Clemson.
Yes.
We can absolutely hang with Clemson.
Oh, yeah.
They probably feel that way.
I love this next one. This is from Car Baldino with a super chat. Thank you very much. Benjamin Morrison is my dad. All righty then. There you go. Abe Gambino with a super chat, a big one. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate you. Who would have thought the way this year has gone, we would snatch Clemson's soul? I don't get to see it much, but I live for Dabo tears. Yeah. I mean, they did, guys. I mean, Clemson, by the fourth quarter, Clemson just wanted that game to be over. I mean, Dabo didn't, but the players did. And part of me wonders if he saw that, and that's why he was calling the timeout. Say, hey, we can't quit, guys. But Clemson's defense wanted. They didn't have Sean. They didn't have that Rasheem Green no Moss moment from 2017 where he just y'all remember that when he just turned his back on cue. I was like, I don't want for this, man. I'm tapping out. You know what I mean? I'm done.
Right.
But they didn't want to be there anymore. It's like, did y'all ever see that Key and Peele skit, front hand, backhand? I'm not going to do it anymore. You know what I mean? It's like that. It's like, I don't want to get smacked anymore. You know what I mean? I'm just done getting punched in the mouth. They don't want to be there, guys. And I love the way he put that. They snatched Clemson's soul. Clemson knew Clemson knew early they were not the better team. And they didn't know how to handle it. They didn't know how to handle it. John Mann, I've been waiting 20 years for one like that. Go Irish and cheers, boys. Keep up the amazing work. We will do our best, John, and we appreciate you very, very much. We're getting near the end here, finally, with so many super chats tonight. We appreciate y'all so very much. Brendan McGrath Music with multiple – thank you for the super chat, Brendan. With multiple great games recently, including ups and downs for both teams, is there a chance Notre Dame and Clemson becomes a new rivalry? Well, they got to play again next year at Clemson. I would love that. I really would. Here's the only problem, obviously, is I'm looking up the Notre Dame schedule. They're beholden to beholden to the ACC scheduling them. And I have a feeling we're not going to see Clemson a whole lot more. I'm going to look it up here, guys, this thing here. So Notre Dame plays them this year and then next year, and they don't play again until 27 and 28. So 4 or 5, we'll see a 3-year stretch where we don't get a chance to see them play Notre Dame. And so the next 2 times they play will both be at Clemson. And then after that, they don't play again until 2031. And then after that, it's not again until 2034. So, and then the last game is in 2037. So, but you never know. I mean, if I'm wrong and Clemson's dynasty is not over, maybe we'll see him in the postseason.
I just hope I'm alive in 2037.
I know, right? There's a lot of people that feel that way. I ain't afraid of no goats with a super chat, another super chat. Thank you very, very much. So I'm a Cubs fan too, which is where the goats. Oh, I see it. Okay. The curse of the goat. Okay. which is where the goats part comes from, the curse of the Billy Goat. And I made this name in 2014, I think, and Ghostbusters. It's very creative. We love creative people. We love the creative names, right? Like there's two types of people we like when it comes to avatars. I like people that don't hide, that are willing to put their own name out, right? I like those. But then also people like, if you're going to come up with some avatar, be creative with it, right? Like I like those. I dig those. Like 99 Problems, but BK ain't one. That's still one of my favorites, right? I love that one. Shawn Michael. What's that?
It's a great tavern. They have great cheeseburgers. The Billy Goat in Chicago.
There you go. Good. I did not know that. I did not know that. Somebody said, Michael Burke said Clemson is not a rival. No regional connection, no true history. Clemson will not be on the same sphere as Notre Dame in 2 years. The question wasn't, are they a rival? The question was, could they become a rival? And I think it'd be a fun rival, you know, especially if Notre Dame's going to continue sort of having that ACC affiliation, right? Because Miami wasn't a regional rival, and they didn't have much of a history until the 80s, right? They played some in the 70s, but there was no connection until it became like Notre Dame, Michigan, Notre Dame, Miami didn't really become a rivalry until like they both got good again.
Yeah.
Right?
USC Notre Dame's also not a regional rival.
Right. Now, again, that took years to become that, but like I wouldn't mind Clemson becoming a rival. There's a difference between the school kind of becoming a rival and it being a rivalry. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you know, a little bit different. Shawn Michael with a super chat. Sean says tonight, I think, was the shift into the ID that Coach Marcus Freeman wants. Dabo was almost speechless. Complete team win. We looked elite tonight, truly elite. Also, huge recruiting win as well. The future is bright. So, Sean, one of the things I love about Coach Sweeney is even in games where they've lost, he's got something to say about that. You just kind of feel like he feels like he knows the buttons to push to get this team back. You know, I read some of the quotes and I just saw his body language and the thing you pointed. He looked like a guy that didn't have answers tonight, and that's a.
It immediately took me back to what he said during the week when he was talking about like the Jekyll and Hyde that you get with this team that he has this year and trying to get.
I don't want to hear anybody talking about Jekyll and Hyde unless you're Notre Dame, bro. Sorry, partner.
Get locked in, but yeah, man, he was very gracious after the game as well. I think he spent about 30 seconds like talking to Marcus Freeman and hit him on his chest and congratulating him. I was like, man, that was dope. That was pretty dope.
I like that.
I'll have to listen to his post game because I'm sure somebody asked him what he said, and I'm sure he elaborated. But you're right; he'll let you know what happened and why things didn't go right. But of course, he was clueless, man, because it had nothing. Dude, look, you and Ryan are going to go watch this film, and it's just going to be a bloodbath.
Yes.
It's just going to be 60 minutes of a bloodbath physically. Like, you don't have to worry about the scheme and No, just watch. Just watch the trenches and watch the bloodbath.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's as simple as that.
Well, that is it. We are now officially out of Super Chats, guys. So we made it through to the end. Appreciate y'all so much. Ryan, Sean, Jesse, thank you guys so much for filling in tonight. You guys do a great job. You do great work. We have a great team here. I can't tell you how many people tonight at the tailgate were like, "Where's Sean? Where's Ryan? You know, where's Vince?" You guys do a great job. We love the team you're doing. Jesse, we have people reach out, get emails about the job you're doing. But the thing I get from people is they really do feel like they are able to connect with all of you. And the fact that, you know, we do keep it 100 here, right? We're going to tell you when it's not good, we're going to tell you it's not good. When it's good, we're going to enjoy it just like the rest of you do. And tonight was a night that we are all celebrating because this is what Notre Dame football is supposed to be about. And I appreciate you guys joining us on the show and holding things down and letting me come on and have some of my own excitement as well. So everybody, my guy Mace AK has it right there, right? Join the message board, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. Make sure you hit the like button as well. Mace left that one out. Share this podcast. Leave a 5-star review if you're listening via podcast. Visit the IB store to get that sweet D'Addario white hoodie. And as always, go Irish. Great job, everybody. Enjoy that win. We'll be back tomorrow night with an Upon Further review. I will be back for that. We will be back here. Ryan and Sean will be back on Monday for the recruiting podcast. Going to be plenty to talk about there. We'll dive into Navy Week next week. So because, hey, look, you enjoyed this win for 24 hours. I'm going to probably enjoy this one for 48. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to prolong diving into the triple option as long as possible. And so we're going to enjoy this one. But as you know, the IB team, we never stop. We never stop putting out content. So thank you all so very much for all the super chats, for all the people who didn't do super chats. Had someone say tonight that they felt bad they didn't give super chats. And I just want to let you know that if you watch our show consistently, you're helping us grow. You're helping us get revenue. You're helping our IB team and our IB staff grow and develop. You don't have to. Super chats are great. We appreciate them so much. They help us out. But if you're listening, if you're watching, if you're reading Irish Breakdown articles, you're helping us. You're helping us grow. You're helping us, kind of continue to do this. And we appreciate all of you so very much. Super chat from Willie Watson Weatherburger at the very end. Some great names. What a super sticker. We appreciate y'all very much. So thank all of you so very much. Have a great night. We will see you all again on the IB Nation Irish Breakdown podcast.